Hello, welcome to a special Easter edition of 90 Minutes Africa. We are off today, but this is our special program for you to enjoy this Easter. Thank you for watching. Front of the Buckingham Palace. I will have gone in there to go and see the Queen and say hi, but I was told that she's sleeping, so I will just talk to you guys from here. This is 60 megapixel. Yeah, business. Business oriented, so I like to. You are not looking for jobs. No, that's what I was inside. Now, what do you want to do when you're back? I want to be an accountant. This is 60 megapixel. Business oriented. Yeah, business. Business oriented, so I like to. You are not looking for jobs. No, that's what I was inside business, so. You sound like you're doing business. Yeah. You're selling some. Talk to the camera. Oh, okay. Advertising. Talk to the camera now. Okay, I do makeup. Yeah, I do makeup. Back in school, I do makeup. Every year I do makeup. My mom makes a show. Okay, we sell laces in our shop. Tell them the address of your shop. Flat 4 shop, but if you please come and patronize. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. The damages in front of the Buckingham Palace. I will have gone in there to go and see the Queen and say hi, but I was told that she's sleeping, so I will just talk to you guys from here. This is where it's going to happen in May, the wedding, Prince Harry, and you are sure that we'll be here to cover the event. You know, a black woman is going to be part of this family. Now, if you follow history, you know that some thousands of years ago, 500 years ago, the people that actually ran this country, they used to be black, so it's not a new thing. But I wanted to go and talk to the Queen and ask her questions about Nigeria and Africa, you know, all the colonial, their colonies in Africa and how they ran the colonies and what is going on there. Now, you know, whether they have any regrets for what they did and how they ran Africa. But like I said, I won't be going in today. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. She's sleeping. Okay, forget it. I was just kidding. You know, look at this. Can you see can you come close to that man there? He's not moving, and he's living. He's alive. He's not moving. Just standing there in this cold. And look at the cars. They don't have expensive cars. In fact, Ojuzo Kalo has more expensive cars than what they have here. Or maybe they are hidden somewhere. The main cars are not here. This may be the one from staff. But anyway, hi.
Excuse me, doctor.
Hey, how are you? Oh, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. How are you doing?
Let's just see.
Yeah, let's see how long you will live.
How many beats have I got left?
Another 100 years.
Another 100
years, yeah.
Okay,
what's your name?
Thank you so much.
What's your name?
James.
James, are you British?
No, I'm Irish. But
Irish.
I live in England.
Yeah, you live in England.
Why are you wearing a stethoscope with a hammer?
Oh, because I'm trying to fix the country, you know?
Yeah.
We
need a bigger hammer.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think about that man running America?
The what?
Donald Trump.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? You like him?
No, I don't like him. I think he's a bit like Margaret Thatcher. People either love him or they hate him.
Yeah.
There's no in the middle.
Yeah. He thinks that some countries are shitholes.
Yes, but look, at the end of the day, he's not a politician, a career politician. He's a businessman. So
yes.
The professional politicians have made a very bad job.
Yeah.
So at least if he's a businessman, he can't do any worse.
That's true. Now tell me about the Irish and the relationship with Britain.
Yes.
Is it going well? What is the deal?
There is a lot of history between the two islands. I grew up in the Republic of Ireland, but I married an English lady.
Wow.
And I live here in England. And where are you from? Nigeria?
Nigeria, yeah.
Well, I'm here in London today
Uh-huh.
to apply for a temporary work permit to visit your country.
Nigeria! Wow!
I've been there 3 times before,
Wow!
and I'm going again in April.
What are you doing there?
Oil and gas related.
Oh, the main deal.
But
Yeah.
no, I live here. I lived in the Middle East in the Arabian Peninsula for 10
Okay,
years.
okay.
So at this stage in my life, I have lived in 3 political systems and 3 religious systems, and I can see good in them all, and I can see bad in them all.
The former prime minister of
Here.
said that
who was he?
Nigeria, what's his name? David Cameron. Yeah, that Nigeria
He was a
is
slippery man.
fantastically corrupt.
He's a slippery man.
Yeah, I know. Where is he
Look,
now?
look.
Is he employed? Or is he unemployed?
He's probably employed somewhere, getting
Making
a lot of
money. I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Listen to me. I'm going to tell you now. My experience in this life. I am 50 years old this year,
Wow.
and my experience in this life, there is corruption
Everywhere. That's what we're saying.
Justice in every country on the face of the earth. And I remember having a conversation like this with your colleagues, with your countrymen, when I was last at Chevron Escravos.
Yeah.
And they were of the opinion that Nigeria was corrupt and that the rest of the world was somehow less corrupt. I said, look, lads, it doesn't matter where you live or what your religious beliefs or political beliefs, there is no such thing as justice for everybody. You get the justice you can pay for, not the justice you deserve.
Good point. One more
And
question.
that's the same in every country.
Yeah, one more question, because there's something about Nigeria you must have noticed when you go there. The church
It
is
disturbs
everywhere.
Me. It disturbs me because
Yeah.
I am Catholic myself. Well,
Let's talk.
I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
It would be fair to say that I don't practice the ritual part of the religion anymore. But coming from Ireland, where people were poor when I was growing up, and looking at the Catholic Church in Ireland and looking at the Catholic Church in Nigeria, one of the things that disturbs me when I'm driving around there is you see lots of poor people and lots of temporary structures, and then you come along to a big,
Magnificent.
permanent, magnificent building
Yeah.
that obviously had a lot of money spent on it, and that disturbs me about
Yeah.
the Catholic Church. That
Yeah.
the money could be used for so much other better things in the
priest-
community.
the priest-
But you come along and here's a big structure, and you think, well, why do you need that?
The priests that came to Africa and turned them into
I'm not
Christians.
being interviewed for Nigerian
No,
television.
nothing.
Okay,
This is a
good.
conversation between friends, you know. So this priests, they came and brought the church to Africa,
Yeah.
but the people here don't go to church anymore.
I don't believe.
Can you guys come and get the church back? We don't need it anymore.
No, the point is this: when you strip down any religious system, in
Yeah.
my opinion, in the church, any church, be
Yeah.
it Church of England, Catholic Church. I mean, and I visited Rome with my wife in the summer holidays this year. We went to St. Peter's Basilica. Look, at the end of the day, the church, any church, and it doesn't matter if it's the Muslim belief, the Catholic belief, the Church of England belief, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a power structure like anything else.
Yep.
The church, the Catholic Church, at least as I understand it, in the whole world now, all the countries, it is one of the biggest financial corporations in the planet, and they exert a lot of economic power. The only thing different about the church, and this could be the Church of England or the Catholic Church or anything else, is only the difference of the uniform that they wear.
I like that. I like
That's
that.
what it is. It's
No,
powerful people
It's true.
powerful, intelligent people manipulating less powerful, less intelligent people.
Yeah.
And the people below maybe don't have the tools yet
To understand.
to question what they're being told or to cross-check it.
No, this Commonwealth, and people ask me this question: is Britain a country or is the UK the country?
I don't know the answer.
When is it that if you're playing soccer, England will play as a country,
I don't
but
know.
when they go to the Olympics, they go as Britain? And
I don't know what the relationship is.
What is the structure?
I don't
Is it
know.
not cheating? Are they not cheating the system that we have? You know,
I don't-
Scotland, for instance, we go as
Well,
a
I know
country.
Scotland is a country. I know
Yeah.
England is a country. I know
Yeah.
Wales is a country. I know Ireland is a country.
Yeah. So
Now,
Britain is
I
what?
don't understand the relationship between what is Great Britain
And what is
it made up of.
UK
the
and
United
the
States.
Commonwealth?
I may have a slight understanding of what the United Kingdom is, because if you gave it its full title, it would. I think it's something like the United Kingdom of Great Britain and
Wales.
Ireland.
Oh, and Ireland. Okay.
So
Okay.
it has to do with the islands in the North Atlantic, but I don't know for sure what it means. There is a distinction between them all. What is the United Kingdom? What is Great Britain? What is England, Wales, or Scotland?
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Netherlands. You talk about the Netherlands, it encompasses more than Holland.
Yeah, that's true.
Netherlands apparently encompasses Holland itself and some of the islands around it.
That's true. That's
in
true.
the North Atlantic. I don't know, does it include any of their, what shall I say, from the days of empire, their dependencies in other parts of the world? Because they, in the days of empire, when all these countries were powerful, they were stomping all over everybody, saying, I put a flag here and I'm going to claim this for Her Majesty or for the King of Holland or whoever.
Yeah.
And they didn't care about the local people. That happened in Ireland.
Now, one last question. When you talk about when we were in school in Nigeria, we were reading people like William Shakespeare. We read people like George Bernard Shaw, Oscar Wilde. Irish people are writers, wonderful writers.
The same as me.
Yeah.
We've studied some of those writers.
So the question is this: do people here study African writers? Do you have books by African writers in your? I know you've been to Nigeria.
No.
Is it fair to us Africans? We learn everything about your country.
What I know about Nigerian culture so far. Recently, and I grew up in an age where maybe it's more common to watch a film of something which has been adapted from a book. But one that I watched lately is Half a Yellow Sun.
Oh, yeah, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
I thought that was a very good film.
Yeah, have you read the book now?
I've read some history of Nigeria, and because I was in the Irish Army for 6 years when I was a young man, I know that Ireland and Irish soldiers have a great history of United Nations peacekeeping missions. Now, not in Nigeria itself, but certainly on the continent of Africa. Irish soldiers have, that's something I'm sort of proud of, the Irish soldiers, when they go overseas, they're not going to fight anybody. They're going to try to
keep peace.
Well, if the peace hasn't been agreed yet, at least keep the warring parties in their separate places until maybe peace can be agreed, and to patrol and police and say, everybody calm down a bit. Whereas other armies,
like the one
England here, French, the
not to talk about the Americans,
when they go overseas, it tends to be for offensive reasons rather than any other reason. They don't be going. They're not much interested in keeping the peace when they go over. But one of the things I'm vastly proud of as an Irish person and being in the Irish Army for those years ago is the fact that whenever Irish soldiers go overseas, it's generally to try and keep the peace, not make it worse. So there was a battle in the 1960s that I was completely unaware of until very lately, and I always thought it a bit odd being in the Irish Army when I was young that it wasn't taught as a historical lesson. There was a place called Jadoville in the Congo, or was it in somewhere in the African continent? But Irish soldiers fought with mercenary forces. It was in the 60s, around the time when this particular country, I can't remember the name of the country now, was looking for independence. And of course the French didn't want to give it up, and they were paying mercenaries to fight on their path. And the Irish soldiers were sent there as part of the United Nations peacekeeping force. And they actually came under attack and they fought back, which was, they fought until their last round of ammunition was used. And then they surrendered because they couldn't do anything else. And they weren't going to, but they gave up a good fight and then they surrendered. And it's the Siege of Jadoville, it's called.
There are some African artworks that were stolen from Africa that were brought to Britain. Do you support them returning them to Africa?
I think I'm very concerned about the fact that there's a lot of other people's history
some might be in
the museums up here.
It might be in this building too.
One that I would be more familiar with now from my travels in Egypt particularly would be things like the Rosetta Stone, where and artifacts taken from the tombs of the pharaohs. In the days of empire, it was normal to go and hey, plant a flag, and we'll have all that and we'll bring it back to the centre of civilization, as it was. And there's the Rosetta Stone is here, the Elgin marbles are here, and those have all been taken from those countries in the past. And I think there's a fair case to say, you know what, let's return them.
Yeah.
You know, in those days of empire, well, it was the normal practice. It wasn't the right practice, but it was the normal. I dare say that if Ireland, where I grew up, was a stronger country in the days of empire, they would have been in along with everybody else. They would have been going, planting the Irish flag all over other places as well. But of course, Ireland was not a powerful country at the time, and so they didn't get involved in the empire building of the time. But I dare say if they had been strong enough, they would have been in there with the Italians and the French and the Germans and everybody else who went off.
What do you think about the Germans? Are they really, you know?
Well, I've worked with a lot of Germans. As a race of people, I understand that the people today are different from the people of World War One or World War II. They are different individuals.
Trump is from there, you know that. The grandfather.
From working in Germany, I still see traits in the German people that could very quickly turn nasty. Even though I understand clearly that the people alive today were not involved with the atrocities of the past. There is
the DNA is still
there. I still see traits in their character.
The DNA is still there.
That given the right economic circumstances, they could go.
If nobody's watching them.
And that's the role of good men in society, isn't it? To speak up and to call people out, because as they say, for evil to prevail,
good people
men will do nothing. And evil will prevail all by itself.
That's true, my man. Thank you so much.
Are you sure I'm not?
Run past me.
This is If Nigeria Was a Food, where we use food to discuss Nigeria, Nigerians, and all the issues bedeviling it. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing Nigeria as akamu. Akamu is a very harmless meal, very easy to make and easy to drink, till you take a hot pap, a spoon of hot pap down your throat. Maybe then you understand why Buhari cannot seem to make up his mind about fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy has been a bone in the neck of all past administrations. And in all fairness to the Buhari administration, he hasn't fared badly. That is why last year, 2021, he signed into law the Petroleum Industry Bill. Now, this bill was supposed to, among other things, remove fuel subsidy. Simple, Abi. Only it wasn't that simple. NLC protested, Nigerian Labour Congress. They protested and said that Nigerians will suffer. That the suffering we are suffering now is too much. That if government ends up removing this fuel subsidy, we are going to suffer more. Buhari and his people thought about it. The pan became even hotter that even the Senate President and the Minister of Budget could not swallow it. So they and the president convened and kicked this hot plate of akamu further down the road. So for the next 18 months, we are not going to hear anything about fuel subsidy again. The reason is simple. Nigerian Labour Congress threatened to go on a nationwide strike. Now remember that Buhari and his people do not like strikes. Remember what happened with ENSAS. And that is by the way, we don't want to go there now. But 10 years ago, there was a protest, Occupy Nigeria. This protest started when the then administration, the Goodluck administration, removed fuel subsidy. Nigerians all over the country protested for over a week because the removal of the fuel subsidy meant that pump price went from 65 naira to 141 naira. After the protest, the government was forced to reduce the pump price from 141 naira to 97 naira. Yet 10 years later, we are still singing the same song, still drinking the same hot pap, and still kicking the plate when it burns our throat. In all fairness to the Buhari administration, when you look at the amount of money this country spends yearly on fuel subsidy, maybe you understand why this account cannot be taken so lightly. Every year, Nigeria spends about 4.6 trillion naira. Hey! 4.6. 1, 2, 3, 4.6 trillion naira just on fuel subsidy. Now, this is number till you compare it to the amount we spend on education. This year alone, the government budgeted less than one third of that money for education. Now we can understand why Labour is angry, because when they remove this fuel subsidy, what it will mean is that for each liter of fuel you buy, you pay 403 naira. And now, given the current state of things, how many Nigerians can afford this? So while we wait for the water to boil, let's make up our minds on how we want our pap. Do we want it hot and scalding, or are we going to take our time to go through this pap, to drink this pap, to go through this fuel subsidy once and for all? Till next time, I am Blessing for the Dr. Damages Show. See you. Bye-bye.
So it's not just that. This guy, Rudolph Hayes, wrote a book called The Secret Letters of Donald Trump. This is combination of part 1 and part 2. But it's also, we found out that just like Jonathan is planning to come back as president of Nigeria, Donald Trump is coming back. So for you, those of you who are amazed about what Trump did in the last 4 years, read this book, and you get to know the thinking behind it. The man is a genius, an evil genius. No, not evil. That's Babangida. But what's Trump? It's a unique genius. You know, his uncle was an MIT professor, smart guy. He would have been a professor if he had gone through schools, but you know, he failed and he didn't. He got some people to write his exam for him, and you know. But get this book and read, and you know more about Donald Trump and what his plans are when he comes back. Imagine this: Jonathan back, Trump back. Wow, that would be a wonderful world. Don't you think so?
Yeah,
Are you from Ghana?
Ghanaian, yeah, from
You brought the business here.
Yeah, what we do here, we use Tommy, we remove stretch marks, we make hips, we make post fame in 1 week.
Can you make this one? Like
Yeah, of course, we'll make it up.
Wow.
Yeah, we make
You
it
know,
up.
Kosi spent 1.2 million naira to make her pot big. You know, Kosi? How much do you have? You have Kosi? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Is it at your shop? Wait. You did that for Kosi or Jacob? You know, Kosi? No. Okay. How much do you charge to do that? Because I have some women who are
The
interested.
hip hop is
You know.
65,000.
65,000 naira. How?
The Tommy one is 85. So you don't even know.
85.
So my own now.
Where is your office? Is it around here? I can
it's
bring
area
10 people.
10.
Area 10.
But whenever you
Where are
want
we?
to see
Area
me,
1
the
or
card, I will direct you.
I'll just call. Are you the
My number
doctor?
is there, yeah.
Dr. Victor Vika?
Yes, this is
Vika.
my company name. This is my name, Dr. Kofi.
Dr. Kofi?
Yeah.
Wow, fellow doctor. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Wow.
Have you guys been meeting at?
Yeah.
Met
I've
doctors
this is the
called-
first time I'm meeting a doctor. All the people are just ordinary people. You know?
I don't know what.
All right.
I'm in principle in support of the what is called power shift now, that power should move from one region to the other, and the North has been in power for the last 7 years. The Southern minorities have had a chance to rule, which for me, although I was a great critic of Jonathan, I'm gratified by the fact that someone from there, got a chance to rule. So I support that. I would also support the ceding of power to the Southeast, because that's the region of the country that has never produced a president from 1999 until now. Not even a vice president, right? Yeah, not even a vice president. So that's the part of the country that I think should produce the next president.
On one bright day, like today, our 2015 campaign plane landed at Bauchi Airport. I looked through the window and saw a sea of people at the tarmac. It was the same panoramic view that I see in front of this Queen Amina Hall today. It was a common sight in those days, but this one was quite different. As the plane taxied to a stop, the crowd surged towards it. They got right onto the runway. Security men and women tried to stop the crowd, but gave up at some point. The security personnel ran towards the plane too. From the window of the aircraft, I took a deep look at the crowd. Some barefooted, some well-dressed, as if it was Salah day. Some young, some old, some rich, some poor. A look at many in the crowd showed people who have a top life. Yet, the enthusiasm on their faces, the fashion in their steps, the gesture of their chants, "Say Buhari," touched my heart. I said right there, before I got off the plane, that if I win the election, I will come back to those people that I saw. I will find them across northern Nigeria and I will make a deal with them. It had taken over 5 years now. I am sorry that that it took that long, but I am here today to make a deal with you all. I have asked parents, old and young, men and women, young children, boys and girls, everyone of you who shared the hope to change that we promised, to come out here today. I chose this backdrop, the Queen Amina Hall, inside of Ahmadu Bello University, to illustrate the point I want to make. I want those of you who have never been inside the four walls of university to come here in this institution. I want you to come in front of this hall named after an extraordinary woman who was trailblazer in our history, a woman who defied all the odds and wrote her name in marble. I want to invoke Queen Amina, who was not just a leader by accident, but one who was also schooled. She fought her way to the top. She was the epitome of the deal that I envision. I want to make things better for you, for us, but I realize that the greatest change there is the one that we all, each of us, can make in ourselves. In 2019, WAEC, no state in the north made it on the top 10 performing state in the examination. Of the 10 states at the bottom, 9 in the north. In the common entrance examination into unity schools in Nigeria, the statistics is such there. In 2008 and 2019 session, while the cut-off mark for a male student from Anambra State is 139 and Oyo State 127 out of 300. The cut-off mark for a male pupil from Yobe State is 2 points, and a male pupil from Zamfara State is 4 points. The trend has been like this in the last 30 years. Lowering standards has not helped the North bridge the gap or improve performance. Instead, it has perpetuated poor performance and lower standard. Looking at the population of young people in these regions, these poor figures for the North are unacceptable. We need to change that together. It should not be like this in the next 30 years. We can reverse it. The speed with which our people formed Shege Kafasa in response to Southwest Amotikun, if we had applied that same fashion to education, we wouldn't have remained backward and disadvantaged for the last 30 years. To all the parents out here and those watching at home, I want you to bring your children to me. I want you to get them off the farm, off the streets, off the business of life and bring them to me. Leave them with me for 12 years, just 12 years. From the time they are 6 to the time they are 18, and I will turn them into what my children have become, what Atiku's children have become, what Entata's children have become, what Shagari's children has become. My daughter just made first class in photography from the prestigious London University. Your daughters could do the same. I am proposing a paradigm shift for us all, for a democratic society to sincerely demand personal responsibility. It must first deliver to the people the minimal educational development. It is a fundamental exchange needed for the creation of a fair and equal society. I want your children to be educated like my children, like Atiku's children, like Shagari's children, like Senusi's children. I want your children to stop coming to the table of the Entata, the Shagaris, and the Umas, the Buharis, to be given food to eat. I want your children to sit on the same boardroom with our children, be in the same university campus with our children, to work in the same laboratory, to manage the same hospitals as doctors, to design the same roads as engineers, and fly the same airplanes as pilots. I want them to go as far as their brains can take them. I want them to go to the best schools all over the world, from Zaria to Zambia, from London to Moscow, from New Delhi to New York. In 30 years, I want to have equal number of children from the northern Nigeria competing on equal footing, JAMB and WAEC and Cambridge examinations, in entrance examinations to federal government schools across Nigeria. This is why it is important. The best investment we can make in the north is not in finding oil in the Chad Basin. It is not in mining gold in Zamfara. It is in investing in the potentials of our children. And so it is that the greatest security we can provide for our society is equality of opportunity. It starts with equality of education. Equality of education guarantees equal access to knowledge. Knowledge, is not just power. Knowledge is also health. It is also wealth. It is also an antidote to ignorance.
The North does not change. The North will destroy itself. The country is moving on.
I charge you to join me as we build a new Northern Nigeria in a generation. We will start with one local government in each state until we get to every school in all of Northern Nigeria. Our goal is that in 3 years from today, there will be a free and compulsory primary and secondary school education for all children across Northern Nigeria from the ages of 6 to 18. We will build your children. We will provide them books and pencils and desks and dresses and anything they need to go to school. We will find new teachers to teach them and retrain and retain the ones we have now. We will build the new schools where they will learn and repair the ones we have now. All that we want you to do as parents is to free your children, free them and watch them fly. Free them for 6 hours of every weekend and we will do the rest. While we adore the ways of the past, tomorrow runs on new tools. We need to acquire these new tools to be able to propel tomorrow. The empires of today are not the type of forefathers built with arrows, guns and enslavement. Empires that need to be protected with high walls. The empires of today are the type Aliko Dangote builds with knowledge and information from the mountains of Tanzania to the Sahel of Senegal. If such ventures have been good to Dangote, they will also be good to your own children. Amfanin hankali aiki da shi. For long, your leaders have pointed at some other places and some other people as those responsible for your challenging lives. We did it to cover up our own failures, to lift you up the way we lifted our own children. We did it to protect ourselves from being at the receiving end of your wrath. But we should have known that our long-term fate depends on you. The people are not just in giving our children the best that the world has. Now we are ready to make amends. It took me a long time to realize the only way to preserve our society, our cherished history and heritage is to secure an educated and informed citizenry. Those who are not hooked to the tap of knowledge find themselves deep in the valley of ignorance. We have to tell ourselves the truth. It starts from here. Our leaders may have enriched themselves, but they have impoverished millions more in the process. We must stop forthwith our tendency to confuse the personal interests of our leaders with our collective interest. No, they are not the same. As the wise one said, what others did to us are so much, but what we did to ourselves are much more. I ask that you trust me on this mission. By lifting your children, our children, we will lift up our society. By giving them education, we will be making them competitive. They will go to the moon and back, exploring and tolerating of the different world out there. But most importantly, by pulling them up, we will maximize the potentials that I know are in them. To this end, I have secured a Northern Rehabilitation Fund approved by the National Assembly. It is part of our efforts to rebuild the North after the devastation of Boko Haram insurgency. I have also consulted our partners in private sector to team up with us in putting the necessary resources needed for this mission to be a success. They have signed on this mission and have donated their time and billions of naira to make this happen. They are here with me in show of commitment to you. The Muslims that will inherit the 21st century world is not the ones that can only read Arabic or recite the Quran, but the ones like my daughter and my son, who can be at home in Dubai and at home in London and at home in New Delhi. So please join me as we unleash the promises currently locked up in all our children. There is no injustice worse than wasting the God-given potentials of our children. Join me, my brothers and sisters, and let us finish the work our forefathers, Ahmadu Bello, started. Hana wani, hana kai. If one refuses another, one refuses himself. Thank you for listening. God bless you. God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Great news.
Today, I bring excellent news for you all. No, it has nothing to do with the price of gari or rice or amala. My advisor, Bayo, told me that a section of the media I have not been able to grab or snatch is writing fake news about me because I don't speak to the press or grant interviews. Moving forward, I will speak to the country once a week. Whether I am in France or Riyadh, I will address the most critical issue of the week. In exchange, any useless reporter who writes any fake news about me will be arrested and jailed. I don't care if you are related to Soyinka or Shawore. If that doesn't work, we will send you where Babangida sent Dele Giwa. All you skit makers, if you feature me in your skit without my permission and I do not find it funny, you are gone. No police acknowledgement of what happened to you. For you, Adeola Fayahun, I won't repeat this. Stop calling me Al-Haji. Stop it. I'm the Jagaban, period. But if you want to practice your karate in the female wing of Calabar prison, continue. Once we get the media to behave, my political opponents will be the next set of people my attack dogs, the DSS, EFCC, NIA, ICPC, and others will come after. So Obi, get ready to memorize more figures in Kuje prison. Atiku, you can hardly read or write, so find a hobby. You will need one in Kirikiri. For the record, insulting and humiliating the president is a punishable offense. Shogbo, that has been 90 seconds plus with the Jagaban. Until next week, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right and woe to the weak. Fellow Nigerians, greetings from China. I heard that bandits in the northwest are taking over towns, villages, and our newly acquired military hardware. Don't worry, I am in China to consult with the Chinese president on using NNPC's 3 trillion naira profit to buy more military shoulder-to-air, Shokoto-to-Nika, Juju-to-Voodoo equipment to deal with the bandits. But that is not why I'm talking to you this week. As the father of the nation, I want to have the final say on the raging issue of Igbo Amaka woman in Canada. I am happy that the Canadian authorities are dealing with her. I told the Canadian Prime Minister in clear terms that we don't tolerate such nonsense in Nigeria. For those of you showing an old video of my wife talking smack about Igbo people, can't someone play with you people again? Look here, I warn you now, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Keep my wife's name, my Oba's name, MC Olwomo's name out of your fucking mouth, Shogbo. If you don't know it now. In this part of the world, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So my people, let us love one another. I know that in the past, I had reasons to say I did not believe in one Nigeria, but that was then. Today, Nigeria has given me a brand new 19-year-old presidential jet, a waterproof luxury yacht, an armored ultra-luxury Escalade, and excellent French healthcare. Life is good. Until next week, may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right and woe to the weak. I am addressing you this week from my well-deserved private vacation in the UK. Today, I am happy to report that prosperity is on our doorstep. The Dangote Refinery has produced its first liters of petrol. Clap for me, people. It is clear, sweet, and stainless. It is coming to a petrol filling station near you. Will it be as cheap as a sachet of pure water? I don't know yet. But as an accounting guru and minister for petroleum, I will do the mathematics and let you know the price I want to sell it. Now that we don't have to import fuel, the Naira will regain its value. My Redeemed Christian Church of God's pastor wife has professed that Nigerians will exchange 1 Naira for $1 soon. At that point, Atiku, Obi, and the little Kwankwaso will throw in the towel and endorse me for a second term as president. Shogbor, in the last few days, you must have noticed that I have fired incompetent senior government officials who Buhari's government had left over. Ignore those lying that they resigned due to witches in their kitchens or their dogs suffering from cancer. He did not ask Reuben Abati, if you cannot carry reporters along, you have failed in your #1 job as a press secretary. You cannot chop alone, not in this my government. From now on, everything will move so smoothly. The dividend of the renewed hope will fall like manna. So be ready to sing again. On your mandate, Jagaban, your mandate, we shall stand. Until next week, this has been 90 Seconds Plus with the Jagaban. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right and woe to the weak. Fellow Nigerians, many of you have written. Some have called me, begging me to make Reno Omokri my new press secretary. Ide Craze, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I am rejecting Reno for that sensitive role, not because of all the nonsense things he has said about me in the past. Having worked with Femi Fani-Kayode, I know his type. The fight for daily bread determines their side at any point. I am okay with that lifestyle. We politicians are nothing but glorified buccaneers. What I cannot stand about him is the security report that said he used to beat his ex-wife. Call me anything you like, but I never raise my hands on a woman. What kind of weak man does that? I can tell you that it is worse than being a male ashawo or even a drug dealer. So please, Nigerians, stop calling or writing to me about Reno. I am desperate for favorable media coverage, but as Jeffrey Archer said, there is honor even among thieves. He should stay where he is and keep dealing with Peter Obi for us. I like it like that. That has been another episode of 90 Seconds Plus with the Jagaban. Until next week, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right and woe to the weak. Fellow Nigerians, thank you to all of you who thanked me for freeing Omoyele Sowore after my boys arrested him at Lagos Airport. I am a very nice man, but warn him not to try any nonsense on October 1st. Tell him that I am not Buhari. If Buhari showed him Shegai, I would bring down Shango on him. For those disgruntled elements in Nigeria and abroad looking for me and asking, where in the world is Bola Tinubu? I hope you saw me in Maiduguri feeding the displaced and doing my job as president. Did you see me, Rufai? What about you, stupid doctor? Damages. Are you happy now? Nonsense. I'm able like you. I was busy getting a well-deserved rest in King Charles's GRA. Then all of you restless and hopeless people won't mind your business. My plan was to go from the UK to the US for the United Nations General Assembly in New York next week. But you kept running your months on social media. And European leaders started looking at me as if my head was not correct. They said Maiduguri, my country, was underwater. And I was in London enjoying a 24-hour power supply, kebab, fish, and chips. Who paid for my trip back home? You. Next week, I will pack my things and head to the US. Who will pay for it? You. Behni. You cannot stop me. Pennywise, pound foolish, all of you. Wait and concern me. Until next week, I am the Jagaban. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right and woe to the weak. My image maker, with whom I am well pleased, Bayo Onanuga, has told you all that I won't attend this year's United Nations General Assembly. I am sending my Vice President, Shetima, to represent me. But instead of you people being happy that Nigeria will save money because I won't be going, some of you suggest that I chickened out for silly reasons. First, I did not drop out to stay home and deal with the nonsense demonstration Sowore is planning for October 1st. Wait and concern me. NSAR's protests allowed me to make my Alpha Beta court files disappear in Lagos. End Bad Governance protest allowed my friend Ganduje to have his contract dollar bribe corrupt files disappear from Kano courts. You all should continue. Maybe this time Senate President Akpabio will get the opportunity to send some boys to the EFCC building to wipe his slate clean. Or Yahaya Bello may seize the opportunity. I won't lie. The US President Joe Biden did not agree to meet with me. It hurts. He only planned to meet with Paul Kagame of Rwanda and William Ruto of Kenya. Those are two African presidents they consider responsible leaders. Stupid, sleepy Joe Biden. But that is not why I am not going. We have mastered how to cover such snubs by setting up meetings on the sidelines with second-class and third-class world leaders, like the prime ministers of the Netherlands, India, and Kazakhstan. Don't worry, people. I've warned Shetima not to go in front of the UN to say to the world, restructuring my foot. Until next week, I'm the Jagaban. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where might is right, and woe to the weak.
UNGA joins the League of Genocide Enablers in Nigeria. By Rudolph Okonkwo. For now, forget about MC Olumo. He is just a leader of the foot soldiers. The spokesperson of the Bola Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, Bayo Onanuga, has taken his rightful place as one of the intellectuals who are midwifing Nigeria's impending genocide. And on this list are people like Texas-based cardiologist Dr. Adeniran Abraham Ario. 8 years ago, Dr. Ario called for a xenophobic attack against the Igbo in Nigeria, the way South Africans were attacking foreigners in their country. When called out, he claimed that someone had hacked his Facebook page. Dr. Ario's Facebook outburst came days after the Oba of Lagos warned Igbo people in Lagos to vote for his preferred candidate in the 2015 election or otherwise see themselves thrown into the lagoon. Reasonable people made some noise made about the dangers of what Kabiyesi said. But being a Kabiyesi, he did not recant or apologize. He did not even get a slight pushback from dissent people, who, deep in their hearts, knew of the danger in what he said. Like a spike hanging on the narrow path, it stayed there, a danger to us all. And then, enters Musiliu Akinsanya, aka MC Olumo. The head of the Lagos branch of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, MC Olumo, multiplied and amplified the Oba of Lagos 2015 threat on the eve of the final 2023 elections. MC Olumo took a page from Dr. Adeniran Abraham Ario's book when challenged and pressured. He staged a damage control drama with Mama Chukwudi when his threat against Igbo voters who would not vote for Tinubu's APC in Lagos's March 18 governorship election went viral. In his case, he claimed that he was kidding and got a police chief to back him up. But that was before violence against those not voting for APC marred the governorship election. The violence followed the exact pattern MC Olumo predicted. But unlike MC Olumo, Bayo Onanuga doubled down when called out. Why not? He is an intellectual turned politician just like Joseph Goebbels. For the purpose of intellectual analysis, we will leave out Femi Fani KO'd. It is not because he once flew to Enugu to make a beautiful speech about handshakes across the Niger. We will leave Femi Fani KO'd out because, you get why. So far, Dr. Adeniran Abraham Arioyo's Facebook has not been hacked ever since. But the Oba of Lagos threat has been metastasizing. Like a contagion, it has reached MC Olumo, Bayo Onanuga, Femi Fani KO'd, and countless others on social media who have started to share in their minds the choice businesses of Igbo people in Lagos. Typically, this stage happens after the genocide, not before. Of course, we must acknowledge people of goodwill all over the country who spoke up. These people did not mince words. They knew that genocide kills more than the people it intended to kill. In every case, it kills people unintended. It even kills the people perpetuating the killing. If you doubt it, ask the Rwandans. Those who have taken the time to study the history of genocide worldwide know that the people who perpetuate genocide never believe they could do something as hideous as that. They typically see themselves as accommodating of others. But in the end, they wonder what got into them. There is no exception to this rule. In our case, we have a ready-made suspect, the devil. 8 years ago, after Dr. Ario's outburst, I wrote an essay warning about the dangers of his Facebook post. 4 years ago, in the heat of the Fulani herdsmen attacks on farmers down the Middlebelt region of Nigeria to the edges of Nsukka and Enugu, I wrote another warning that genocide is loading in Nigeria. Please, find below a combination of the two pieces. Not speaking up is the mouth's fault, our ancestors said. Not listening, the fault of the ear. Sometime in the 90s, Bola Ige wrote a controversial but landmark essay called The Road to Kigali. He later developed it into a series of essays published in his Nigeria Tribune column, Uncle Bola's column, and so many other newspapers and magazines. If you skim out the controversies as it relates to who is playing the role of the Tutsi and who is playing the Hutu in the case of Nigeria, the late lawyer and an agitator for a national conference argued that left on the same path Nigeria was on, the people of Nigeria were headed for the same fate that befell Rwanda. The core of his argument was that a country that is structurally flawed, inherently unjust, where impunity reigns and law and order means nothing to anyone, would constantly flirt with doom. For those who have forgotten, Rwandans had lived in a fractured country with unresolved citizenship and rights questions, crawling from one crisis into another until 1994, when they killed 800,000 of their compatriots in 100 days. Bola Ige later became the Attorney General of Nigeria and was murdered at his home in Ibadan. And Nigeria moved on, as we often do. But the issues he raised have not died. Nigeria, unfortunately, continues to dangle between the road to Kigali and the road to Rio de Janeiro. Remember, Bola Ige wrote when Plateau State was still peaceful. Then, Plateau and Benue states had not been turned into killing fields where ethnic and religious conflicts had not led to the death of thousands and the destruction of towns and villages. Ige wrote of the road to Kigali when nobody in Nigeria could fathom that a group of Nigerians could rise and call themselves Boko Haram and start destroying towns and villages, killing schoolboys, kidnapping schoolgirls, blowing themselves up, and wiping out villages across the Northeast. According to Gregory H. Stanton, the president of Genocide Watch, there are 10 stages of genocide. He tagged them as classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, persecution, extermination, and denial. He said these stages do not follow any particular order. they can occur concurrently. In Rwanda, the 1994 genocide started when, on April 6, 1994, a plane carrying President Juvenal Habyarimana and Burundian President Cyprien Ntaryamira was shot down as it prepared to land in Kigali. It killed everyone on board. The next day, genocide against Tutsi and moderate Hutu started. President Habyarimana, a Hutu, had signed a ceasefire agreement called the Arusha Accords. It was aimed at ending the Rwanda civil war. Hutu extremists who opposed the ceasefire agreement shot down the plane to frustrate Habyarimana's move to share power with the Tutsi-dominated Rwandan Patriotic Front. But when the incident happened, Hutu extremists blamed it on the Tutsi. It became an inciting tool for Hutu leaders who were determined to wipe out the Tutsi people in Rwanda. Jean Kambanda, a banker and an economist, directed the genocide that followed. As the leader of the Mouvement Démocratique Populaire, he directed the execution of what they called the final solution of the Tutsi problem. The Hutus set up roadblocks and apprehended Tutsi people and massacred them. They distributed machetes, and Hutu militias, soldiers, and regular folks hit the streets, killing and maiming and destroying properties belonging to Tutsi. In 100 days, over 70% of Tutsi in Rwanda were killed. 1994 was not the first time Tutsi had been massacred in Rwanda. It happened in the 50s and 60s. For the Hutu extremists, the Tutsi have dominated the country's economy and power for generations and must be stopped. To accentuate their narratives, the Hutu tagged the Tutsi as foreigners, oppressors, and native colonialists and even called them cockroaches. In each of the past instances of killing before the 1994 genocide, Hutu government officials have been at the forefront of organizing and supervising the massacre. But more importantly, in their rhetoric before the massacres, they prepared the masses for gruesome acts against the Tutsi. In Rwanda, journalists who promoted hate on the radio were later tried for inciting genocide. One George Ruggiu of Radio Television Libre de Milis Kalines was sentenced to 12 years in jail. Inciting genocide and complicity in genocide are all crimes violating international law. You sometimes hope that the likes of Bayo Onanuga know this. Also tried and punished were army officers who led gangs that massacred people. Major Bernard Ntyahaga, the commander of the Presidential Guard, received 20 years in prison for his role. You sometimes hope that the likes of MC Alumo know this. Genocide does not happen out of the blue. There is a long period before the actual killings when the populace is prepared for genocide. The first step in the preparation is to classify the potential victims as them and the potential perpetrators as we. The setup is the classic we versus them. The line could be drawn along ethnicity, religion, race, and even class. The them are next given a symbol. They are discriminated against and then dehumanized. Discrimination comes in various forms. Those who intend to perpetuate genocide begin by finding ways, using laws and customs, to deny rights to the group they intend to slaughter. As it happened to the Jews, the Germans denied them full citizenship. And it appeared right to decent Germans. What often follows is a restriction on employment, political participation, and empowerment. The issue of indigeneship versus citizenship comes to mind. And as we have seen in recent times, the matter of the right to vote and the right to be voted for. Discrimination can advance to what Professor Alan Whitehorn called stigmatization. A targeted group is given a stigma on which they would be hanged. It is important for future perpetrators of genocide like Bala Muhammad to dehumanize their victims.
Intro smooth and catchy. Oh na na, yeah. It done up in again. Every man go get the ton of Natasha there for you. Oh, real betting on cha cha cha. Say you they run your race. I buy you they play. Two kind girls they wait. You go see them face to face. One go light your walls like December day. The other go show you pepper, no time to explain. If you don't suffer, joy go come. If you the wicked, karma go run. No be by mouth, no be by phone. Natasha go come, we go balance the night. I touch you. There's a Natasha for everyone. Choose your own, make you no go wrong. Oh no, show your wahala, it there your hand. They go collect what you don't plan. Now the Natasha you on. Now the war we go on. Your story to song or burn or fire. Better choose well, my turn. Let's go. Oh, no. Life not mirror, no they lie. But see you give it go multiply. If you they pure, blessing go fly. If you they slide, tears go dry. No they form saints. If you no queen, Natasha no they do in between. She they serve hot or sweet, depending on your vibe this week. No disguise go save you. Natasha go find you. The team change me. Come up for the fake ones. No disguise go save you. Natasha go find you. Natasha go find you. There's a Natasha for everyone. Yeah. Choose your own, make you no more on. Oh no. Try your wahala, it there your hand. You go collect what thing you don't plan. Daddy Natasha you on. Now the luck, don't be charmed. Now your life. Be the alarm, you they call on with your palms to shine your eye. No they down, there's a Natasha for everyone.
That those Fulani men who are maybe domiciled in other countries who move around, they can come into the country and this plan will accommodate them as well.
Yes, that's what we want to do.
Yes, of course. But won't it be better to first allow the Fulani people coming into Nigeria to do national youth service first? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, the governor? Yeah? Huh?
As I said, the Fulani man settles anywhere he can feed his cattle.
We know that. We know that already. We know that already, Governor. Please, let's tell us something that we don't know. Governor Muhammad.
If that these forests are there anyway, if you don't occupy them and create a colony out of them, they create places for the criminals. Yeah. And today, that's why you have the Sambisa forest, because it is not being utilized.
Aha! Now, those were the intelligent views of the great Governor Bala Muhammad a year ago. He and his friends just made it all happen. You know, they made sure that Fulanis from anywhere come into Nigeria, occupy the forest, and anywhere they could reach, any forest they could reach. They asked for it. Thank you, Bala Muhammad. Thank you, Megida. Thank you. We love the peace you have brought to Zamfara and to Kaduna and to Niger State and to Katsina State and to Ondo Forest, everywhere, and Enugu Forest and Soka Forest. Thank you.
Why should federal government use resources for this country to accommodate Fulani men who are not Nigerians?
You see, these TV people are always, they're asking so many useless questions. Anyway, let's watch the governor's answer.
See, as I said, we are already accommodating them. Do you delineate and then really know who is not a Fulani man from Nigeria? They are all Nigerians because I said their identity, their own citizenship is Nigerian.
Yawa! I didn't know that. I did not know that. You see, that explains the mystery of our population figures from the north. This fluid kind of thing, you know? Now, for those still baffled by the genius of Governor Bala Muhammad, it may be important to remember this. On leaving office as Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, billions of naira cash was found in a vehicle that Bala Muhammad owned. Oh yes, his son came out and claimed the money. It's mine. Leave my daddy out of it. It's mine. And everybody said, oh, okay, you're my young man, you know, sure. Soon after, in 2016, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, arrested then he wasn't a governor, Bala Muhammad, for financial crimes worth over 1.3 trillion naira. Yes, you had me right. 1.3 trillion naira. In Jonathan's naira, not this useless Buhari's naira. No. Jonathan's naira. The allegations against Bala Muhammad included land racketeering in Abuja and his role in a $2 billion arms deal. Yes, you had me, 2 billion. Bala Muhammad, with billions and billions of naira in his pocket, just pushing, coming out from his pockets and everywhere he goes, and facing EFCC trial, ran for governor of Bauchi State in 2019 and won. Yeah, he won the Nigerian way. He won. In 2020, his hands were again caught in the cookie jar when Governor Bala Muhammad awarded a contract worth 3.6 billion to his own company. Of course. Old habits don't die that fast. You know, they don't die that fast. So you can understand why recently Governor Bala Muhammad gave Nigerians a lecture on why Fulani headsmen must carry AK-47. Watch.
Cattle rustlers who carry guns, kill him and take away his commonwealth, that is the cows. He had no option but to carry AK-47 because the society and the government are not protecting him.
Bam! You see, the Edo man kidnapped by terrorist Fulani headsmen in the forest in Edo. The Ondo man kidnapped by the terrorist Fulani headsmen in the forest in Ondo should also have no option but to carry AK-47. Can Governor Bala Muhammad come out and support that? After all, cattle rustlers go after the cattle, but terrorist Fulani herdsmen in the forest, they go after the lives of people, you know, that they kidnapped. Unless cattle are more important than men. I suspected that. I was just suspecting it.
Nobody owns any forest. The forest is owned by Nigeria.
Why is it they don't teach us this in school? I'm just saying, you know, nobody owns the forest in Nigeria. Nobody owns any water in Nigeria. Any waterway, nobody owns it. Nobody owns any air. Nobody owns any market in Nigeria. Nobody owns any woman in Nigeria.
Nobody had the freedom of matriculations or speaking anyhow. Anybody can speak anyhow, but we are exercising restraint.
Yeah, anybody can speak anyhow.
By Rudolph Ogu Okonkwo. After 10 years as a teacher, a young Okija man decided to go and express his gratitude to the most important person who taught him in school. He traveled 47 kilometers to see his old teacher in Nobi, where the 80-year-old man had retired. When he got there that hot afternoon, he saw the man resting under a mango tree with a small local breed dog often called Bingo, keeping him company. Around him was a modest bungalow with rows and rows of hibiscus and white gardenia planted around it. Some of the glass window louvers were broken and replaced with pieces of wood. The scent of blooming cashew tree filled the air. "Sir, you taught me in class 4, do you remember me?" the young man said after introducing himself. He wore khaki trousers with a white shirt, an old school uniform his old teacher could quickly identify. With his failing eyesight, the old man did not recall the young man's face or name. After 30 years of teaching over 4,000 students across the old eastern Nigeria, most men at his age would not remember unless for exceptional cases. The young man was not surprised, considering it was over 20 years ago since he was in the old man's class. He, however, thought his case was exceptional. "What do you do now?" the old man asked him, shifting the wrapper around his waist to fully cover his arthritis-riddled knees. "I am a teacher," the young man answered, his eyes beamed as he said so. "That's nice," the old man said. "Teaching is a very noble profession. Even if everyone forgets about you when you are old and retired, you forever retain some of the beautiful memories of your time as a teacher. Even if your material reward were meager, you would cherish the knowledge that some of those you taught are the ones running the affairs of your country. In the rare case when your former student traveled far to come and see you, that is the ultimate. It is always delightful to encounter one of your former students and they remember you. Nothing beats that. Especially when they have a good memory of you. It beats being a police officer or a soldier, which were the other career options available to us then." The young man smiled. "You inspired me to be a teacher," he said. "How?" the old man asked, brushing off a mosquito that landed on his wrinkled arm. He could have crushed the mosquito without looking based on his sharp reflex, but he did not. Then, the young man told him the story of the day he changed his life. "I was in class 4, the young man started. On that day, a friend of mine came to class with a beautiful watch his father bought for him in Onitsha. All of us in class admired it. Being that my father was poor and could never afford to buy me a watch like that, when I had an opportunity, I stole the watch." He paused and glanced at the old man's face. It was expressionless. No judgment had formed, not on his eyelids and not on his bushy brows. "My friend whose watch I stole tried to get the person who stole his watch to return it but failed," the young man continued. "So he reported to you. You came into class and asked the person who stole the watch to bring it forward, but nobody moved. There was silence. I was afraid, not just afraid to return the watch, I did not dare to return the watch. At that point, I knew that I needed more courage to return the watch than the courage that I used to steal it." The small dog barked, wagged its tail and shifted away from the young man. Looking up, the young man saw the old man's jaw moving as if he was chewing bitter cola nut. "Then you closed our classroom door and asked all of us to close our eyes," the young man continued. "You went around searching each person's pocket. I had never been terrified as I was at that moment. I thought of bringing the watch out and dropping it on the floor, far away from me. But I dismissed it because though you asked us to close our eyes, I imagined everyone in the class was looking at me. I froze in grave horror. When you came to my pocket, you found the watch. You took it. But you did not stop your search. You continued to search until you got to the last boy in class. You then went to the front of the class and asked us to open our eyes. When we did, you announced that you had found the watch." At this juncture, the old man gestured to the young man to sit on a green plastic chair beside him. The young man thanked him. When he had sat down, he continued with his story. "You did not say whose pocket you found the watch. You did not say anything to me in public or in private. You gave the watch back to my friend, the owner. That day, you changed my life forever. I went from facing the most shameful situation ever to having my dignity restored in 60 seconds. From that day on, I resolved to be a good person for life. You did not scold me. You did not quote the Bible or the Quran. You did not take me to a shrine. You did not read out passages from the Bhagavad Gita. You did not spell out any moral lessons from Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Nelson Mandela, or Benjamin Franklin. You did not advise me to change my ways. Still, I got the message. After telling this story, the young man asked the old teacher, "Sir, do you remember this incident?" The old man smiled and said, "Yes. I remember the incident, but I do not remember you." "Why?" the young man asked, surprised. "Because, I, too, closed my eyes while searching the pockets of all of you," the old man said. "I did not open it even when I took the watch from your pocket." I continued. The old man dipped his hands into the pocket of a worn-out ISIA good top he had on, brought out a pod of alligator pepper, 2 bitter cola nuts and an edible nzukle and offered them to the young man. "Welcome to my modest home," the old man said. The young man cheerfully accepted them with a gleeful reminder of Green Brown's assertion that while vulnerability is the core of shame and fear and our struggle for worthiness, it is also the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging and love. A great teacher knows that he doesn't have to humiliate in order to correct. A great athlete knows that he doesn't have to receive a medal in order to be a winner. A great believer knows that he doesn't have to fight for his God to demonstrate the affirmation of the creed. If you must humiliate anyone for you to correct, then you do not know how to teach. If you must get a medal to feel like a winner, you don't know that participation is everything. If you must kill anyone for you to save your God from humiliation, then you don't know the God you worship. This is a new version of an old Indian epic story. Rudolph Ogu Okonkwo teaches post-colonial African history at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. He is also the host of Dr. Damage's show. His books include This American Life SEF, Children of a Retired God, among others.
Blessed be the Holy and Undivided Trinity, now and forever. In this new year, you shall win some and lose some. Yes! You shall prosper some days and regret some other days. You shall rise after you are defeated, and you shall fall after your victory. Yes! I pray that your wins shall surpass your defeats in weight and in numbers. Yes! That is what I wish for you. Even as God clears the limitations on your path, more will come. Of course. You shall rise and fall and rise again. You shall fail and rise and fail again. And again. For that is the natural path of everyone alive and doing something. You shall not be stagnant, because that is not the natural state of any living thing. Yes. You either progress or you decline. You will weep when the season of weeping comes, and you will be joyful when the season of joy comes. Ooh. I pray that you shall see all the normal seasons of life. Yes. I can tell you right here that a lifetime of happiness will only kill you. Ooh. Anyone promising you no weeping is also denying you joy, for only the dead are isolated from the seasons of joy and weeping. Yes. You cannot have one without the other. Some days you shall be a wonder to the world. Some other days you shall wonder about your place in the world. You shall struggle some days and triumph some other days. Yes. The enemies and the wicked shall continue to target you. It shall not end as long as you are alive. Yes. If it ends while you are alive, check very well. You are dead. Yes. Just like you are targeting others, so shall you be targeted. Remember that the wicked are not from outer space. They are you and I. Yes. Sometimes we are our greatest enemies, and sometimes we inflict our ugliest wickedness on ourselves. This new year, look in the mirror and tell the person you see to change for the better. Yes. And watch the world around you change too. That is my prayer for you. Say amen. Amen. Say amen. Amen.
When your mazolo bio, Aqua bio, Max, if you have go Panumo, no fube, Nazo, Olaga, ni piazugo, Mamulaga, doni piazugo, Aqua wilo chio, Bicora puzo, Conavazia. When your master because Abama water the sorry. If you want to go na Ulaga doni piazigo Ulaga doni piazigo Abama wilo chino Bigora fuzo Mazi wako mama Odogu na kwerezi neka Onyoma nigadele mwa Mazi ni bazi kama Ibu go wuti baladi Odogu na chalanoka Ezi wande mliga delemo Olaga doni pezigo Olaga doni pezigo Amama wilo chilo Bigora muzo Anabaze Te Onyama zorode Mama was a sorry. If I were to go on a fool, Mulaga, don't need Piazugo, Nazaboy. Mulaga, don't need Piazugo. Amama will chilo, Biko Rapuzo, Anavazi. A dog can never be kitchen for. I'm up on Nika Gogia. Well, you work well he can't jump a bell. Hey, you want? Esi wanne mekene ila polife nini neme webia kago sile na nyi na gibu wanne wisdom bigade kanye gi maiki koko banya beku isili maxi obu netire egwu a malukwa malu ni mego mi fojo Wesigi wanne mi foku ni cholo nangeme Wisdom onu mekenege Bama iyo iyo biko lapo Nanasia Zoro, 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 zoro Deduru joy na bugwa osa Sokoto Ujembe mwilo Anu solo mwe manofia nara Onye wuro zurike
Okwudilio Okudilione kelaniyo Olisa malugo koyene menenua Okudilione kelaniyo Chukuna malugo yobia diocha Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Owe chuku bezie chuku Nuche chukwa busigi fege meo Nuche chukwa busia ifege meo Nifo solo ne ase alibazie Oboye bebe agaranya muliba Oboye wuru agaranya mebibe solea Mano agaranya mwa Oboye afyozie nipakwa Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Oboye chikubezio lisa Kodili ma kodili bemo Kodili wakema kodili wanima Naino kwane we beluge beluo Kodili ma kodili bemo Kodili kemo kodili heyo Ibedwe me wane Nikadie zibo heyo Nekwe kona bia Nanya na kebe Nekwe kona bia Ebem jelu ekweje Gwanu mi femgeme Omuwa watanu Gwanu mi femgeme Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ekwe mbadike ekwe Ekwe mbadike ekwe anọkwa mbeme ijelubia anọkwa mbeme ijelubia iwe bụ akpa ego wee bịa iwe dọkwasị m n'ụkwụ iwe na-ayọ m wee jụ iwe na-ebe akwa ị na-ebe akwa onye na-eti gị ekwe mbadike ekwe onye ibe m na-ewe iwe nya biko wee gbuo ya ọsụkọsụ nwamkpi nya biko sugbuo ya Onye ife m na-ewe iwe nya biko wee gbuo ya Ọsụkọsụ nwamkpi nya biko sugbuo ya Selense
I have nothing new to say.
People are hungry.
Let them die. It's their fault. Yeah, I'm supporting Tinubu 100%.
You're supporting Tinubu
100% to deal with Nigerians.
Jeez.
People like you. So that when next election comes, I will now see whether when people bring money, you will vote for them or you will do your conscience.
Colonel for a Foul by Rudolfo Okonkwo. After years of pursuing men, you believed in a man being dropped right into your arms. It was the Almighty's purpose for you. And that was how you met him. It validated your belief. It hardened your heart to everything else anyone was saying, including Iwoma, your girlfriend. From then on, everything else was undue mocking of tired people. And coming from Iwoma, who had not fared any better in the hands of men, you had no problem waving it aside. You had no fear that, as she said, you might be cracking a kernel for a fowl. You were a nurse, a degree-holding registered nurse. You never forgot that you ought to be rich. You worked round the clock. Every shift American nurses would not do, you would accept. Holidays and all, you were available. In fact, you love the holidays because you get paid double the time. And at $60 an hour, a double meant more than a new hairstyle. It meant a day at the spas, a visit to Bloomingdale's and another bottle of Agent Provocateur. You drove a big BMW, SUV model. Most men who had the opportunity to get near you were intimidated by your confidence and poise. Those who were not, who dared to approach you with brilliant pickup lines, you had doubts about their sincerity. You could not figure out if they were coming to you because of your hard-earned money or to take advantage of the residency status which you had earned as a nurse. It wasn't long ago when he told you that you belonged to him. You assumed that it meant that he belonged to you. You were an African, but you now live in America. You cook with the microwave and you bathe inside the bathtub. You fetch no firewood and you draw no well water. You eat hamburgers and not fufu. You wear jeans and not booba. No proverbs were created around computers, iPods, and GPS systems. So you accepted that it meant that all proverbs were suspended. You had crossed 7 seas and 7 rivers. You had left behind the 7 idioms of the 7 shrines of your homeland. You were now in the land of the free and the home of the brave. All old things have passed away. So you allowed him to etch a tattoo down your waistline. He tattooed you that first night he made love to you. You let him draw a big stop sign. He painted it red, too. When you wore a tank top, the red sign showed at your waistline. Your panties often split the sign into 2. Further down, he wrote a special note. He ended it with an exclamation mark. His note says, "Private property, do not trespass." Scorpions on guard, ready to sting objects as little as index fingers, men beware. Then you lay there for 3 hours as he drew a scorpion. You did not mind as he scraped off some pubic hair to find space for its tail. He asked you to tattoo him too. But you were no tattoo artist. You were just a nurse. You told him not to worry. You did not need to draw your face around his penis to be assured of his faithfulness. When he asked you what you would have drawn if you had wanted, you lied to him. You did not tell him you would have drawn a long stem of a rose. Instead, you said to him, "I would have drawn a gun and simply written beside it, in capital letters, bang." You knew you were lying. But lying had become part of your life. Your true self had not taken you anywhere. You were not always like this. In fact, when you came to America, you carried with you, like a little shell, all the norms you learned at home. You dared not look a man deep in the eyes. Your mama taught you to carry yourself with grace. Growing up in Enugu, you were able to resist the pressures of your peers. You still hear your mother's voice. Yuzo, don't be like those loose girls who are spoiled and are not good for marriage. But her voice became faint as each day passed. You had managed to confine her voice to a small cubicle where you placed things of the past. If only Mama could see you, she would not believe what you had become. You had become a grown-up woman. A woman, 10 times the woman she was. You knew what you wanted and how to get it. You did things that she could not imagine in this life and maybe in the life to come. Somehow, you had learned to please yourself. Sometimes you worry that you might be in a rush to recover the years you spent trying to please Mama. You do not regret those years. Without the restrictions, you probably would not have won the scholarship that brought you to America. But you were happy to throw away all inhibitions of the past. He was the one who opened your eyes. He was the one who led you to places you did not know existed. In moments of bliss, you did not fail to remind him that he spoilt you. You liked to be spoilt. You liked to be pampered. You liked to be worshipped. You liked your man to think of nothing else but you. And you have succeeded with him. Like a tortoise, you had made him desire you. He desired you so much that he had agreed to lift the earth onto your head. Your only challenge was finding a place for him to stand as he did that. You were not just a taker, you were also a giver. And that was how you met him. You were doing a graveyard shift at the trauma center of Union Hospital in Lynn, Massachusetts, when he was rushed into the hospital by paramedics. He had been shot by a Latino gang member right inside his barbershop/tattoo parlor. You were assigned to him after surgery to remove a bullet lodged in his thigh. A foot higher, the bullet would have shattered his manhood. When he came out of surgery, it was the first thing he said to you. And you left. You cared for him that night. You cared for him as if he was your brother. You continued to care for him in the days that followed. He had nobody around. His 2 brothers and sister all lived in London. You knew this because you were the one who bought the phone card and dialed the numbers for him as he informed them of his ordeal. They called. They sent him flowers. But they were too busy to fly to America. His parents in Nigeria were too busy with local politics to come either. His friends came when time permitted. But you were the one who was always there. When he was discharged, you continued to visit him at home. You cooked and baked. You made meals, soups, and porridge. You helped him clean his house. You dressed his wound. You even helped him run his barbershop before he finally sold it. The gunshot, he said, was just a warning. But for you, it was a sign you had wanted to see for so long. At first, you did not know why you were doing those things. But you were sure they were the right things to do. It had been a long time since you last did something because it was right. You had learned that, in America, because it was right wasn't a good reason to do anything. In America, experience had shown you, people did things mainly because it felt good. You had paid a heavy price before you learned this. The scars on your soul, the patches on your emotion, and the wrinkles in your smiles were constant reminders. Caring for him felt good. Considering where you came from, what you had been through, it did not make sense. But deep inside your heart, it felt good. That was how it started. That was from where it blossomed into a love affair. Everything was going well until his mother came to visit. It was his mother who unmasked you. It was his mother who told him who you really were, that poor Wawa girl whose mother sold bean balls at Accra, in front of Chief Obioso's house. Yes, it was you. His father and Chief Obioso were friends. And so it was that he was a friend of Chief Obioso's children. He did visit Chief Obioso's house many times. You were a secondary school student then, some 17 years ago, and so was he. You admired him. From the boys' quarters where you and your mother lived, you saw him drive in several times with Obioso's children. You were jealous when you saw beautiful girls in his arms. You wished you were one of those girls. When they threw parties, you peeped through your little window and wondered how great their lives were. But you remembered what Mama told you, that you were given a different destiny, whatever that meant. You knew that your place was lower than his, even though you were in the same class, but in different schools. He was attending the elite College of Immaculate Conception, Enugu, while you were at the lowly Ido River Girls Secondary School off Agbani Road, also in Enugu. In spite of your different stations in life, you knew about boundless goodness that surpassed all imaginations. You knew this because your father, a driver for Chief Obioso, died during the Biafran War. He was Chief Obioso's aide-de-camp. You were told he gave his life for Chief Obioso to live. Faced with a bleak future, Chief Obioso took you and your mama into his house. He contributed to your education and you were almost like his daughter. Almost you would say because you were not part of Chief Obioso's children's parties. You were not friends with their friends. If you were, you would have been in his life before now. And when Chief Obioso was not at home, you were more of his children's servant than their friend. You remembered one night, during one of the wild parties Chief Obioso's children threw, when Kenny, Obioso's first child, called you in to perform a chore. You could not remember what the chore was. But you remembered going into the kids' wing of the big house and seeing a living room full of beer bottles and cigarette butts. Half-naked girls were lying on the carpet. You remembered seeing him there. You remembered him because he came to your rescue when one of Ovioso's children grabbed you and started fondling your breasts. You did not like what he said that night. You did not forget it, either. But you were still grateful that he rescued you. In fact, you have rationalized what he said so much that you have convinced yourself that he only said it to protect you. "Leave that and Beak alone," he said. It had the same effect on you then that "leave that nigger alone" would have had on you today. Only that now, you knew you would be grateful to a white man if he said that and saved you from possible rape in the hands of another white man. That was how you rationalized it and compartmentalized it. You have packaged it and keep it where you keep things of the past. And then, his mother came and revealed them all. You were kind to his mother, too. When she came, you took time off work. You drove her around and showed her places. You shopped for her. You bought her expensive jewelry and clothes. You took her to every mall and every outlet in New England. She only needed to look at an item twice before you picked it up for her. You took her to the museum. You took her to Faneuil Hall and New England Aquarium. At Boston One Theater, you saw the Broadway show, Less Miserable. You rode on the Boston Duck Tour. You saw her laugh as the duck became a boat in the river and a bus on land. She marveled at that. She called it American wonder. You were glad she liked it because she did not like Salem, the witch city. You gave her a good time. You thought things went well. When she was leaving, you gave her money, too. You were not trying to bribe her. You were not even acknowledging that the path to a man's surname often started with the approval of his mother. You were doing it because, on so many levels, it felt right. She seemed grateful for all you did for her. After each outing, she gave you a little more crayfish. Then she gave you Gary. By the time she gave you Audrey, you were sure you firmly had her in your camp. Not that it was your goal all the while. As you accompanied him to the airport to drop her off, she surprised you when she gave you some yards of lace and material for a wrapper. Even though it was the cheap ABA not on you material, you were very grateful. As you hugged her for the last time, you called her Mama. It wasn't the first time you called her Mama, but this time, it came out deeper. By the time his mother visited, you had known him for over 2 years. You had seen him grow from nigger wannabe to a well-balanced black man. It started with the gunshot wound, but you had a lot to do with the final outcome. When he had the barbershop, he also drove a cab. The two occupations placed him in direct contact with the most violent people in society. You helped him in his transition. You bought him the equipment he needed to become a DJ. It was what he wanted. He did that for a little while, but business was not booming. He abandoned it. You encouraged him to go into nursing. He resisted many times. He was afraid of math. He hated biology. You made him take the North Shore Community College LPN entrance examination. He failed. Thrice. He gave up. He said he wanted to be a computer network administrator. You paid $5,000 for him to attend a training institute. He completed his courses. He studied hard and obtained his A+ certification. By the time he was all done, the computer boom had fizzled out. Those who were surviving were those who got in not for the money, but for the love of computers. He got in for the money, and when the money was not coming, he put away his chips. Finally, he settled into real estate. He became a realtor. He wore a suit and tie, expensive shoes, and went about asking people to buy houses. He was good at it. He had a sweet mouth. And it helped that he was handsome. It made wives encourage their husbands to listen. Many listened. He made many sales. You agreed with him that he had found his calling. But then, all his friends and acquaintances who had good credit and could afford the down payments all bought houses. His options began to narrow. You helped him buy 2 houses. It was a small business of renting for him. A cushion. You also helped him start a staff recruiting agency that sent nurses and direct support staff to nursing homes and group homes. For a long while, you and your nurse friends were his core base of nurses. As you helped move him towards more stable and responsible career choices, you also noticed his stabilization. It was gradual. He reduced the number of days he went to the gym and began to see himself beyond the puffiness of his muscles. You could see the changes in the nature of the haircuts he was getting. You could also see it from the size of the pants he wore. As he slid from the hardcore hip-hop worldview to a middle-class black outlook, the size of his pants reduced. His pants also climbed up his butt. You were glad that your man was coming home. You were hopeful that he was settling. But as soon as his mother left, you noticed a change in him. He wasn't as open as he used to be. You asked him once what was the problem, and he said he was being pressured by his mother to get married. You tried to console him. You tried to tell him all parents were designed to think like that. You tried to tell him that your mother had also been pushing you in the same direction. You did not tell him, "Hello? What's the problem?" You did not say, "I'm here." No. You encouraged him to listen to his mother and yet to make his own decision. When he suddenly announced that he was going home and would stay for 2 months, you did not have any worries. After all, it had been a long time since he was home. You volunteered to help him run his businesses, but he refused. That surprised you because you had been helping him in the past. But you did not read too much into it. Not even when his agency stopped calling you for work. You did not care because you were never short of hours. He went to Nigeria and called you once. You did not hear from him again. 1 month. 2 months. 3 months. You were worried. You sent him an email and he did not respond. You visited his house and there was no sign that he had come back. You visited his staffing agency office. It had been closed. You made inquiries. You spoke to his friends, but nobody seemed to know anything. Even though you missed him so much, you gave him his space. It was very painful as your birthday came. Last year, you traveled with him to Disney World. It was there that you marked your 34th birthday, and he celebrated his 36th, which was 2 months after yours. You missed him, but you also knew in your heart that he was God's gift to you. Agaracha, wanderer, you told yourself, must come back. Then 4 months after he went away, during your birthday party, someone gave you a strange gift. It was an envelope with a business card inside. You looked at the business card and it was his. It showed his name, his new address, and his phone number in Worcester. A note on the back of the card said he had returned from Nigeria with a 19-year-old wife and they both live in Worcester. You stormed out of your own party like buttocks stung by a vicious ant. You entered your car and drove to Worcester. You could not recall stopping at any traffic light. You could not remember paying for toll at Tobin Bridge. The last time you were in Worcester, you had come with him to attend a pre-wedding party of a Kenyan friend at Lucky Dog nightclub. You got to the address and saw his Mercedes car parked in the driveway, a car you made the down payment for. You sat outside his house and watched, while your blood boiled inside. From the window, you could see 2 figures moving around the house. You called the home number on the card. You saw him walk towards what must be the phone. He paused at what must be the phone's caller ID. He did not pick up the phone. You waited for 2 minutes. You called his new cell phone number. He did not pick up the phone. You sat in the car for a long time with your eyes focused on the house. As tears began to build up, you saw the 2 figures inside what looked like the living room area. He held her hand and they began to dance. The scene sent goose pimples across your skin. You called again, this time dialing *87 first to conceal your phone number. He walked toward the phone but did not pick it up. You saw them swinging into what looked like the bedroom. You wished you could be invisible. You wished your phone was a gun. You wished you had enough gas to pour around the house and set it ablaze. You wished you could invoke the tornado of 1952 on the house. You wetted your fingers with your saliva and rubbed your eyes. You were not dreaming. You called again. This time, the male figure did not walk toward the phone. He switched off the light as the two figures gently landed on what must be the bed. You knew exactly what would follow. You have been there. You started your car and drove away as erratic as a sliced worm, wondering amongst other things if he had given her a tattoo too. And if so, what her tattoo might say, scumbag. As you drove home, tears trickled down your eyes. Every mile away from Worcester, its 7 steep hills fading behind, you imagined the undertakers preparing your first love for burial. This is one funeral you will not attend. You had waited for an eternity for those tears to flow. Now you feared it would flood Lake Quinsigamond. But weeping was all your soul needed to be free. At Tobin Bridge, across the mystic river of Massachusetts, the spirits of those who could not bear loads like this besieged you. They said, stop the car. Climb out. Take a jump off the bridge. Immerse your tired body into this cold water. It will cool your soul. There were many voices. They were loud, cluttered and making eerie noise across the cantilever truss. You heard a voice like that of Charles Stewart. His murdered pregnant wife sobbed in the background. You heard a splash as his body made the 115-foot plunge into the river, causing receding ripples just as Boston police circled his home. You slowed down your car. You pulled up by the emergency lane. You clicked the door open with your tear-soaked hands. The night was chilly. You looked out and saw darkness as creepy as a monster's claws. Suddenly, the voices stopped shouting and began to whisper in seductive tones. You put your foot out and it felt unsteady, touching the frozen bridge. From afar, you heard police sirens singing a dirge. They were coming toward you. They were driving up fast. You ducked into the car like a scared snail burying its head in the shell. You started the car and drove off in a panic. The voices jumped into the car with you and began to call you a coward. You assured them you were not a coward. You debated with them. They insulted you. You continued to drive, fidgeting and frightened. You turned on the radio to interrupt the voices. On the radio, the alternative rock band, Failure, came on. They were singing, The Nurse Who Loved Me. Say hello to everything you've left behind. It's even more a part of your life now that you can't touch it. I'm taking her home with me, all dressed in white. She's got everything I need, some pills in a little cup. She's fallen hard for me, I can see it in her eyes. Those were the last words you heard before you smashed into a pavement a few yards off the bridge.
Sahel region of Nigeria to the south.
I'm so sorry, Senator. Sorry.
Yes.
I started talking without. I didn't start to record. I didn't start.
Okay,
to record,
so let's go ahead and
yeah. All I did. I'm just so sorry. I was so excited. Initially, when we started, I recorded, but I wanted to make sure that we are going. No, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm recording now.
I'm still recording.
I'm recording now.
Yeah.
I'm recording now. So let me redo my introduction. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Hello, welcome. My name is no, I'm confused now. Hello, happy Democracy Day. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. Nigerians are marking Democracy Day today, but the country itself is in a final crossroad. It is the poverty capital of the world and just landed on the number 15 of the list of failed countries across the globe. My guest today is the most admired Abuja politician from the eastern part of Nigeria. His admirers call him Ufonye Anasi Unabiago. He was elected deputy governor to Governor Ojuzukalo in 1999 and left in 2003. He was elected to the Senate in 2007 from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. He represents Abia South Senatorial District in the Nigerian Senate. He's the minority leader in this Nigerian Senate. More than a dozen people insisted that I introduce him only this way, and I quote, "There are two senators representing Igbo people in the Nigerian Senate, Senator Abaribe and others. It is my honor to have as my special guest on this special day, Senator Abaribe." Senator, welcome to Iroko Post TV.
Thank you very much, Rudolph. But Biko, let me say this. Two things. The first one about only 2 senators. It's not true. We have 14 senators. We lost one, and we're waiting for the elections to feel that people represent different constituencies and different. And the reason why people hear me more is by virtue of my position as a minority leader, and therefore Agumano in the front line, and therefore that is what I'm expected to do. The second one is about happy democracy, and therefore some people have simply cashed in on people's struggles and people's efforts to bring democracy to Nigeria when they are actually totally undemocratic. And when you tell me happy democracy, I don't feel that today is something we should celebrate. This is a very solemn day that is being desecrated by those who have taken it over.
Yeah, we'll get
for propaganda purposes.
We'll get to that, including the speech of the president this morning. But let me say this: in the little time that we have, I will try to squeeze in as many questions as possible. I called for questions from the social media, and people who follow me on social media, they sent in over 200. They range from Fulani headsmen attack on communities in the south, the influx of northern youths to the south. There are questions about Biafra, referendum, and Nnamdi Kanu. Now, people are interested in knowing what you think about Igbo presidency, the state of Abia roads, and erosion in eastern Nigeria. But that's a performance of governors in the east, especially Abia State governor. There are questions about the federal government loans and projects distribution across Nigeria. And the Senate has a rubber stamp of the executive arm of government. So we try to get to as many questions as possible. But the first question I want to ask you is what I think is the number one thing that worry people from your constituency. And it's about the attack of Fulani headsmen across most of southern Nigeria and the influx of youth from the north to the south. Will you be able to say to people in your constituency that there is nothing to worry about?
No, I would say that. In fact, there's a lot to worry about. And I can tell you that we had meetings upon meetings. We met as Ohanese, we met the governors, we set up a security committee headed by, I think it was Admiral from Anambra, and with Onovo and others, and who were former military people, and they were supposed to bring a report to us. And then we had the second meeting, and it was during that meeting that, of course, we didn't understand each other very well. And then the governor said they needed to hear from the Inspector General of Police, and there was a meeting in Enugu. I wasn't in that meeting, unfortunately, because I was tied up in Abuja and I couldn't go. But what I heard was that, there were just some disparate things being said by our different groups. And right now, what we actually need is for everybody to come together and have one response. The Southwest had one response and set up a Moteku, and we were waiting for our governors to also do that. Because I tell you one thing, it's very easy for us to say, oh, okay, let everybody come together, let's do what we need to do in our areas. But the point is that some people have been elected and they have the instruments, office, Hage, to, pull everything together. And that is what we are waiting for. Governor Mai has promised us as chairman that they are, something is in the works and that they will unveil it very soon. But then we continue to see this influx. And of course, in the midst of all the meetings we were holding and everything we were planning, the pandemic came and there was a lockdown. Now, we got a shock that during the lockdown, there was movement of all these people. Some people call them Almajiris, but Almajiris are below 10 years old.
Okay, our feed with the senator is frozen. We will continue to wait, and hopefully we'll be able to get him to join us, because we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about, and yeah, I think he's back. Okay, he's reconnecting, and as soon as we get him.
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so these were grown-up people. These were not youth. These were not Almajiris. And so we were very concerned and we were very worried. And different Igbo groups, they were contacting me, and I had to also contact the chairman of Governors Forum, who told me that there was something in the works. Now, my personal feeling is that there are two groups of persons coming from the north to the south, and of course, some of them to the southeast. Some are economic migrants, that is those who have lost everything and don't have anything again, and then they are drifting to the south because they think that there are prospects of a little making a living over here. There had been this type of movements before during the farming season. You will notice that during the farming season, we have people come and work in our farms, and then after the farming season, they go back. That group is there, but there are these other ones that we just see coming, who come to be Okada riders, gatemen, shoe shiners, and all that. And that is that group that everybody is worried about, because some of them are coming from outside Nigeria. They don't speak regular Hausa. They don't speak English. They don't speak Pidgin. Some of them just speak French. Some speak some other languages. And those are the ones that we are very, very bothered about, because we think that these people may just be people who are coming as sleeper cells and can be activated anytime. So right now, the ADF and so many Igbo groups, everybody is bothered and everybody is worried and everybody is just saying, what do we do? My take on this is that we voted in people to man the states. They have the resources, they have the instruments of power, and they can.
Once again, we have an internet problem, but we will wait. And
their direction. They straight me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
I
can. Yeah, I said the handicap is the structure of the federation. It's
okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but you are frozen again. When I get you back, I wanted to go back to where you were talking about the governors having the instrument to do something about it, and I want to know if they fail to act, what next? Because people are very worried, including people who are abroad. Okay. So we lost the senator. We try to reconnect with him. That's what technology today, that's what we have. Okay, he's back. Okay, good.
I can.
Okay, all right. Good. All right.
So like I was saying,
Go ahead.
What I was saying is that the structure of our police and our military formations and other paramilitary organizations is such that a governor of a state is incapable of giving direct orders to them without their referring back to their bosses in Abuja. And that now is why you find that
Okay, so the line keeps freezing. Okay, he's coming back.
to deploy the instruments of coercion in his state is what is leading us to these problems. So now in the Southwest, what they did was to create the Amoteku for themselves and use it to now, which is what we had in the different states in the Southeast. You had Bakassi in Abia and Anambra at the time. Then now you have forest guards in Enugu. I think you have another one. So what we told them is, why don't you bring all these different units together? Why don't you get all the state houses of assembly to pass the same type of laws so that everybody works to one purpose, which is the defense of our homeland. And that is where we are now. We are having this ongoing conversation about it.
Now, for people who are watching and they are still worried, they will be thinking, why will it take so long for the governors in the East to take action? And if they fail to take action, what can they do? That's the question that I'm getting. What can they do themselves? Do we want them to take actions themselves?
Well, what we don't want is a situation where you take your own personal action and it is tagged something else. And therefore, that's why we continue to want to use the governors, because they are the people who have the responsibility to secure lives and property within their different states and within the Southeast zone as a whole. What we have suggested, and ADF and some other groups have also suggested, is for us to set up our own homegrown network of security. But we think that the type of stigmatization that they did to IPOB and all that will also apply if we don't go through the formal network that the governors will have to institute. It will be seen as something else. And then, of course, when you now have a clash between the police and the army, of course, we know what follows. Everything that happens in the Southeast is regarded as a different thing. And we do really want to solve a problem, not to create another problem while we're solving it.
Mm. And now I wanted to ask you, why should everything that happens in the Southeast be seen as something different?
Well, I have tried to answer this question before. Let me just repeat it. The civil war has not ended in some people's minds in Nigeria. Just to put it succinctly.
Okay, all right.
And the government in power today seems to have that mindset that whatever they do, that they're doing, how do you call it now? They're doing saraka for you. They are just, it's not right. We're just giving you, you don't even deserve it. Something like that.
That's a good segue to the next question I have, because you might see it this way and it's something that you are dealing with. But for young people from the Southeast, it's not a funny thing to them. It's not something they have the patience to deal with. It's making them angry. The people in government or the people at the federal government, or the people, your colleagues in the Senate, do they understand that some of these things they are not funny to the people, the young ones in the Southeast? So like what you said now, the fact that the Yorubas could set up their own security network, and if the Igbo people do something, it might be read to be something else. There are so many instances we are going to get to that. But how do your colleagues in the Senate, how do they see their instances? For instance, let me give another example that I hope we are going to discuss in details. Something like when they announced that they are going to do some projects, borrow some money for some projects, and then young people in the East will see the list of projects, and they don't see anything in the Southeast. When they do that kind of presentation, are they not concerned that people will not feel happy about that?
Well, let me put it this way. It also has to do with the mindset of those who you find in the corridors of power. And it's a mindset that does not have to deal with the fact that some people elected you into office. And I'm sorry to say, in the North, there's a feudalistic mindset in which you have people up there and the rest of the people on the ground, and whatever they do for them, they are just doing them a favor. And so when they extend it to the rest of us in the South and see our reaction, they cannot understand it. They don't understand why we think. They don't understand that now. In the Igbo Palace, we are Republican in nature and do not deal with this humbug of having some upper class and then a lower class. It's a fundamental thing which will take a long time to
resolve.
To resolve in our system. I deal with them. I talk with them, and sometimes also they seem to understand, and will tell you, well, I don't understand what is going on. For example, a couple of days ago, there was a big protest in Katsina State, and that protest in Katsina State was against the fact that nothing was being done in their own minds against the incessant killings that were going on there by bandits. And they were burning President Buhari's billboards, really.
Yeah.
And I asked the Katsina senator, I said, what's going on? He said, no, that the president has sent military, did all that, and then nothing is happening, and so everybody is angry that even himself is not happy. So how can anybody come and do campaigns around there and all that? So you could see that in their mind, I'm talking about my colleagues from the North, the buck does not stop on the table of the president. There's every effort to absolve the president of responsibility and then, shift it somewhere else. So that's why when you see that I stand on the floor and I say the president is responsible, they get very infuriated because there is this culture, Baba is there, and therefore, I think the late Ghanaian Fahim used to call it a Kabiesi culture. There's that culture that the man is not wrong. It must be us, or the rest of us, or those who are given responsibilities who are incapable. But of course, for each one of us, we know that if you're in charge, you're in charge. If you appoint somebody, you're taking responsibility for that person too. If the person is not doing the good job, then you remove him. And so there's this inability to do something. So what I'm saying really, in effect, is that and the Nsobu is that our people, of course, there are two classes of us, which you've just mentioned. They are the younger ones who didn't get affected by the Civil War, who didn't have to go through the eyebrow, and they are looking at it and they're saying, why should there be two classes of Nigerians? Why should one come from the north and one come from the south, and the person from the north is given,
privileges?
Giving some privileges which the one from the south doesn't get. I'm not talking about all the south too, because if you're a big man in the south, of course, and you're hobnobbing with your people up there in the north, you can get things that, but on the average, what the Igbo man wants is to have a level playing field. I've always looked at it and I've always talked about it, and then let every man prosper according to the skills and abilities that the person has, So the younger people find it difficult to accept this. And of course, with the influx of communication technology and the fact that you can, make your voice known on your own without having to go through some formal structures, it makes their being able to voice out their complaints so much easier.
Mm. Now, before we leave this topic, let me ask you this. There are some people, young people, and even old people who look at what's going on, and are this way, the way you describe them, and look at the people they elected or were elected in the East to take care of these things, and they don't feel confident that they can handle it. And they are looking for avenues to do something. What will you say to them? If they come to you now and say, I want to do something, what can I do to help? What can they do?
I'll tell them to get involved in the political process. The other process of doing, armed struggle and all that is no longer in vogue. And what we find really is that even these young people who are also agitating and also, also not involved in the political process. So they can't even elect people that they want. If you don't get involved, how are you going to be able to change the people? I mean, assuming they don't like me, assuming they say, oh, Abaribe, you're not doing what you need to do, you should be able to vote me out. I'm bringing that person.
But they will say to you, they will say to you, I know we'll get to that later. They will say to you, look at what happened in Imo State, where Imo people elected somebody else, and the Supreme Court says, oh no, we're going to get the person that is that got the fourth position and make him the governor. What would that do to give them confidence that if they get involved in the political process, that their mandate will be respected?
Yeah, aberrations happen, like what happened in Imo. We went on protests. We had to go protest to the Supreme Court, protest everywhere. Made sure that we were on the streets every day in Abuja because there were 3 other judgments coming. And we had gotten from the grapevine that those other 3 judgments were also going to go the same way. And so because we now made it, and then everybody was outpoured their, angst about what was happening. And that made Sokoto, Bauchi, and all those ones, the people who were voted survived. The point really is that getting involved, it's not just the voting and all that. It's also getting involved and coming out and saying what needs to be said. I know that it's a difficulty. It's getting involved, demands sacrifice. Let me just put it that way. And sometimes it's easier to do it from the cozy room of your, in front of your laptop than to be on the streets and march.
But they can say that when they go on the streets to march, they kill them. So
then they kill them and all that, yes. But then, and you just have to continue to, do what you need to do in terms of agitation. Because if you don't, ultimately, the bad people will continue to do the wrong things. That's just it.
Let's move to other things. Igbo people today, you can actually divide them into 3. There are those who believe in Biafra and they want referendum now, and those who want to restructure Nigeria and throw away the 1999 constitution. Then there are those who are fighting for Igbo presidency in 2023. Where do you belong?
I belong to all three. let me put it this way. First, Igbo presidency. I can say clearly that a political party nominates a candidate. And so when you need to get the type of person you want, you need to work within that political party. That is one. So if you're not a member of a political party and you're not an executive, you're not part of the party, you're not part of anything that is happening within the party, you can't sit down and expect that they're going to, you understand, on the basis of morality. Of course, there are some people who have made this argument on the Igbo presidency, say, oh, that when Abiola died, oh, that at the end of the day, that they gave it to Obasanjo and Falaye and all, therefore we need it. But you know, the situations are different. What happened during that time was that even the economic capital of Nigeria, which was Lagos, was strangulated, and it was obvious to everybody that they needed to do something, and the people never relented. In their press, in everything, they continue to show that we don't even have the power of the press like they had. And so, assuming that political parties will willy-nilly give it to you just because you're shouting doesn't work that way. And so, as much as I've sat down with Law Mefor and all those people who are talking about Igbo president, I've told them one thing. I would like to be president. You understand? I would like to be able to, run this country in the best way that I think that I should run. But of course, I belong to PDP, which means that within PDP, I have to fight for PDP to be able to get an Igbo man who will be able to get every other person within the party, or a majority of people within the party, to trust him enough to give him the ticket. Because when we do everything, at the end of the day, you need to be able to win the different constituencies that will give you that. If you remember, in the United States, they were doing something, and it was Bernie Sanders all the way, until somehow they just turned around and, oh, now it is Biden, and it's coming in there. So somebody needs to be able to be within the area and fight for that. You know, so that's about Igbo prayer. About those who talk about Biafra, who talk about referendum. Let me start with referendum. Unfortunately, we run a 1999 constitution, which has been amended severally, that does not have a referendum provision, which means that if you need a referendum, you have to go outside of that constitution, which is why some people are now talking about jettisoning the 1999 constitution. But for you to jettison the 1999 constitution, what it also means is that you will have to have a meeting of all the different groups in Nigeria agreeing that they're going to put or set that aside and then do some kind of constitutional conference and all that, which when you are within a milieu that we have now, where some people are already in office and they're going ahead, they're going to ignore it and say it's not within the Constitution. You understand? And of course, there are some people who now want outrightly let us go. I think the last time we were in Lagos at the 50th anniversary of the Civil War, I think Onyeka Owenu put it very succinctly. She said that day, if they don't want us, let them leave us to go, you know. But of course, you know that this is a country And, you know, there has to be a critical thing that happens to be able to force that type of accommodation. That is for people to say, okay, go your way and all that. Another problem we're having within the Biafra movement is also the fact that, of course, there are different groups. I just read the other day when I think it was Wazirike that said he's collapsing his own now, and then they are recognizing, of course, between Wazirike and Uche Mado, we didn't even know who is in charge in the Masop business. And of course, Uche Mado was already working with Namdi Kano. And so everybody need to come together. And of course, the LNC is on the other side saying, no, let us dissolve this whole thing and have 5 regions coming out of Nigeria and so on and so forth. So with different disparate, I would say, feelings or disparate groups all going their different ways, all they do is to dissipate energy, because there has to be focused energy for us to get to a particular position. I think, and I made this point in Mississippi, that I think that while looking for getting out of Nigeria, we should also, at this time, use the resources that we have to be able to make our homeland a better place for us. Because if we are not doing anything with the resources we already have, what is the guarantee that going into a Biafra will give us a better frame of mind to be able to
well, this is what the people, young people listening to you will say. They will say, okay, use our resources well, but you also said before that the structure of the country is not making it possible for governors, for instance, to do the things they needed to do. You also know that we have imposition of governors sometimes in the eastern part of the country, and when you have people imposed from Abuja, it's difficult for local people to actually force them to do some of the things that are needed. So how do you navigate that? How do you say to the young people, we need to find a way to use the resources we have and do what we can do at this point when they know these obstacles?
Yeah, when I, just a minute, just give me a minute.
Okay,
Let me get some people who just came into the house.
Okay, all right. All right, we wait for Senator Abaribe to come back, and we'll continue the conversation.
Okay, so I'm back.
Okay, good.
Well, let me put it this way. When I said that the structure of the country makes it a little difficult for you, I wasn't talking about the economic resources that are available to I'm talking about the instruments of coercion, police, and all that things. Now, if you talk about the economic resources of a state, I believe that if well managed, it will much better things will be done. I'm telling you, and that's a fact. Every month, every state goes to Abuja. I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong for them to actually every time go to Abuja to share money. I think a federation should be run in such a way that you keep your resources. Then you pay the share that goes the way around, not the federal government to get all the resources. That is my own idea. But every month, every state collects money from there, comes back and disburses as they deem fit. Also, the states get their own internally generated revenue. The state do all their own stuff, and none of them is controlled by the federal government in any way. But yesterday, the EFCC said that, that they were returning monies found with Governor Rocha Sokorocha to the state to the tune of 5.7 billion, and that some were still left, and that they were still in court trying to get the forfeiture order on that. I mean, think about it. 5.7 billion being returned. And so, a governor working for his people, why should you have that kind of, humongous amount found in your distance? So we also have to take responsibility. You understand me? We have to take responsibility. The government in Rivers State has been having a running battle with the federal government, and they have been fighting and all that, and saying everything, and so they are going to remove him. But he's getting resources. He's using it for the state. He's building stuff. You understand? And what I say is this. Yes, people might be imposed from outside, but if you give them enough heat, they will work for you. Ngige was imposed from outside, and he did so much work because he got too much heat. I think what's going on is that people are very complacent and just saying, because they don't buy into the governance that it affects them. You understand? And because they don't, they really, people take them for granted. Let me just put it, that way, because I'm also somebody that can be accused in part of it.
let's finish up on the Biafran thing. On social media, you see what they call a referendum question going on that asking people about what will you do today if you had to vote, whether Biafra, Igbo people, or Biafra will leave Nigeria. And I don't know if you've seen that. It will pop up on your social media. If you should see something like that, what will be how will you vote? Will you vote for?
I think that hypothetically, if such a thing is, but I will vote for us to actually be on our own. I think that we're being dragged down actually by all the different things that weigh Nigeria down. That's why I'm saying, in effect, that if you sit in your state and do well and create the necessary conditions within your state, what you will do is to attract people to come, not for people to run away from our place. A lot of our businessmen, a lot of our destiny, if you check, they are not in Igbo land. It's just the pocket in Aba and Newi. I'm talking about those who manufacture, not those who do importations and sell. And the reason is simple, that the conditions are not created that make it very easy for our businessmen to thrive inside the Igbo homeland. And therefore, they find it easier to invest outside of Igbo land.
Now,
that is just a fact. Go ahead.
Okay, let me ask you about Nnamdi Kanu. He said one time that he loves you and that nobody will beat you up like Ike Kweremadu. What's your relationship with Nnamdi Kanu? When was the last time you were in touch with him?
Just before he, they were attacked, and then, he had to run away. I had invited him. I sat down with him in the house. I told him our fears, and I told him to make haste slowly. And we also gave an interview that day. That was about the last time I spoke to him. I spoke to him just, I think, the day before they attacked their house, because he was telling me, he called me to say, this is what is going on, and that was why we were a little bothered, because we didn't know and I didn't have any information on what was happening. And so when the DSS arrested me and they said they wanted to know where he was and all that, I said, no, you people are the people who we should ask where he is. And then you have the responsibility because you were the people that saw him last. Of course, if he surfaced, I'm sorry. He surfaced outside after a while, but I will say that if I need to reach him, I have those that I will talk to and they will talk to him. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. You are frozen, but I can.
Okay, you're back online now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know that you, when you got the bell, you were shorty, and the government were saying that you should bring him back and all those. But I want to know the situation now with your. Did you give up your assets? Did you recall? Did they give you back your assets? What's the situation with that lawsuit?
No, the situation with the lawsuit is that the lawsuit is still on. What happened was that by the time we were in court the last time, we had appealed a ruling of the judge, and that appeal is subsisting because the judge had varied the terms of the bail by saying that we should now bring cash instead of property, which we pledged, and we now appeal that.
Okay, once again, we're frozen, and we'll wait for the internet to help us. This is part of Nigeria's Democracy Day, while the president made a speech about how good things are. You can see that we're having basic problems connecting. Not that it doesn't happen in other parts of the world, but the frequency that we see things like this in Nigeria makes you wonder where the accomplishments and achievements that we hear about, if basic technology is difficult still for us. All right, it's been interesting conversation with Senator Abaribe. We will come back with more questions and more answers from him. Thank you so much for watching this part 1. Okay, good.
We're back now. So like I was saying,
let me just introduce. This will be the part 2. Okay, welcome back. This is our part 2 of our conversation with Senator Abaribe, who represents Abia South in the Senate. He's also the leader of minority leader of the Senate. Okay, Senator, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was saying that with regard to the Nnamdi Kanu, that we're still in court and that we appealed and that the appeal is subsisting and that we are still going through the appeal process.
Okay.
And we appealed because the terms of the bail were varied, and we said that a bail bond is like a contract. If you change the terms of the contract, then you need to let the opposing party know, to be sure that he is aware of that before, and that is, so maybe it will also be a landmark case in terms of bail matters around that Nigeria.
Yeah. Now, let me summarize. If I'm wrong, let me know what you think about the Biafran movement as of today. You think that there are so many of them? You think that energy is being not being channeled in one direction? What do you want to see from that movement? Do you want it to continue? Do you want it to join the other Igbo movement? What is your take?
Well, what I think is that there should be a meeting of minds between them, because we have, you know, the Biafran, what is it called now, who said that they are the original ones before Nnamdi Kanu went. I was part of them. Then he went his own.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I'm saying, I think they should come together. I think that having different groups dissipates a lot of energy, I think. You know, and I read, of course, that there's a move by people to bring everyone together. But like I said, as much as we are looking to an utopia of Biafra, let us also look inwards and make our homeland great today.
Now, talking about doing that, we have governors in the southeast. People say that you are very good at talking about the plight of Igbo people in the hands of the federal government, but that it seems like you are silent on the plight of Igbo people in the hands of Igbo governors. They give examples.
Yes, I've heard it. People have told me.
Okay, good. I'm happy that they told you. So they give example with your home state.
People have told me that, I can, for the purpose of this interview, say that what I do is I do what our people also counsel in our local idiom. Na-echụpụcha egbe, then ga-ebiazie bịasị nwa ọkụkọ ma ọ mara otu ọ ga-eji na-aga ije. Because na egbe bi buru ya na ihe dị mkpa ka egbe ụzọ chụpụ egbe. We have an existential problem coming from the federal government, giving us so much problem. And I think that if you're firing that side and then you're also firing locally and all that, you just waste so much bullets. We know that internally we're not having it very rough. But what I try to do is not to expose our, let's say, differences so much in the public. The reason is also simple too. If you do it, then those people outside will use that to now say to you, what are you complaining about? After all, you are just telling us that this man is not also doing well. And so, for example, I mean, there's some young man, I don't know him, they just said, oh, that they incarcerated him, that it was the Abia state government pushing him and all that, some Emperor Bonna. And I went to see the DSS director and said, I need to know why this guy is being kept here. And they said all manners of things. I said, okay, if you think that he has committed an offense against the state and all that, so charge him to court. And he said to me, oh yes, that they already made plans and that the Attorney General's office is charging him to court. And I said, fine, I'm going to be overwatching you to make sure that you charge him to court so that the court will decide whether he should be given bail or not. So those are the kind of interventions I do, but we don't like to, when you're doing those kind of interventions, go on to be telling everybody, oh, I'm doing A, B, or C. You know, there was a time too that there was so much problem about the death and all that in our bar everywhere. And I was so angry, and everybody was telling me, oh, you represent that, but I had to go to the governor direct. And I said, we're so disappointed in you. Why are you doing this? And he said, oh, Sorry, we're doing A, B, C, D. We're bringing out the trucks. We're doing this and that. We're going to change the format and all that. That's the kind of thing that I would do. I will not formally come out to attack any Igbo governor. I wouldn't do that.
Mm. Well, that's interesting and answer to that. But also, I wanted to know whether you also see it this way, that just like what you said, the EFCC announced this week about Rocha Sokorocha, and that also undermines your arguments in the Senate when people outside of Igbo land are seeing what is going on. I'll give another example. We see what the governor of Borno State is accomplishing in the last I don't know how long he's been there, 1 year. And if you compare that to the people we have in the East and what they are doing, and some of them have more resources than the governor of Borno State, people see this and people wonder why. What are we going to do if you cannot publicly, for good reasons and the reasons you marshaled out, do something about it? There is a big majority of young people who are looking at the situation in the East, and they are feeling that things are not going well. They don't seem to see anybody who is trying to hold these governors accountable. We don't have any media in the East. Essentially, it's totally no media to hold anybody accountable. The governors are trying to lock up people who are even trying to say anything. A good example is in Imo State. Somebody just posted on Facebook and called the governor, Supreme Court governor, and he was locked up. Why is that happening? Why is the DSS now kind of a policeman of the governor of states? What is going on?
Well, I really don't know. I think also that, and I've made this point elsewhere, that we also sometimes have democracy without Democrats. Criticism, it's a part of democracy, and people are free to tell you anything. And so when you don't have a Democrat and you have an autocrat, it's when you criticize him, then he comes, and then what you do is that you wait for him at the ballot box. And I said, let every young person get involved. You get involved by organizing, you get involved by getting everybody around you to know the problems. And of course, the young people are the people who are very idealistic. I mean, they are the people who will not be thinking about how to pay salaries, how to feed the next person, how to make sure that their investments are, so it is at that point of idealism, which is what you see in the George Floyd, the protests, that it is young people that actually change the world every time. But when the young people too turn around and get very complacent and then continue to blame every other person, then we're really in for a big problem. But I'm telling you also that I have a lot of young people that I discuss and I talk with, and and they give me hope. They give me a lot of hope.
And let's look at a bigger issue. In the Southeast, we have 5 states. It's the only region with 5 states. The other ones, at least, they have 6 states, or one of them, one region has 7. Now, why is it difficult to see such an obvious injustice? And why is it difficult to correct? All right, his connection is frozen. I will wait for him to come back on. All right. I hope for viewers, I hope you will bear with us. The connection is in and out, but we will continue as long as he can stay with us. Okay, good. Good, he's back.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So let me reframe the question so that you can start your answer. So in the Southeast, we have 5 states. There are some regions with 6. Most of the other regions, they have 6. One had 7. Now, to people looking at this, it's an obvious unjust situation. And the question is, why is it difficult to correct? Because it explains the answer you give the viewers. We explain other minor things that are not just, that are clear to people looking at Nigeria that this is not just. If something like this that is big, that everybody can see, it's difficult to correct. Maybe they will, if the answer you give may help them to understand why the small ones are not being correct.
Well, let me put it this way. The state creation that we saw were not done out of the fact of there was a referendum and people agreed on where to go. They were created purely out of military fiat. And so the people who were in charge as military people decided to subdivide as they deemed fit. And some were even done with regard to those who had wives and said, okay, let me create one for my wife, and so on and so forth. Those were the kind of things that happened. So there was an attempt in creating states, if you remember, or recreating and putting another one in the Southeast. And for every time that we go for, the conference meetings, constitutional conference and everything, this has always come as, number one. But you find that in the 1999 Constitution, which is, of course, the ground norm which we are using today, the question of creation of states was put in Section 8 and Section 9. And then, of course, there were a lot of hurdles that were put there so that it's not just so easy to wake up and create a state. And I think it's the hurdles that are put in Section 8 and Section 9 that is really the problem with creating states. At the last count, when there was an attempt in, I think it was during the Obasanjo era, and there was a move to create more states to accommodate the Southeast. There were 45 other demands. So what you find is that in each state, there are all manners of vociferous tendencies. And once you want to say, okay, let us open the door, everybody will say, okay, I want my own too. And that has continually made it impossible for state creation to be done. We were Eastern region. We eventually, as Eastern region, ended up having 5 states from the East and 5 other states from the other part of the Eastern region. The 6th one that was joined was Edo, which came from Edo.
Okay, we're waiting. If they can hear him, the internet is acting up.
Which came from, so this nations agreed to take the Midwest and create it out of the, I think it was Western Nigeria and all that at that time. So, long story short, you can't create state today just for one area. Every other person will have to agree. And I've also had occasion in one other interview to say that when matters affect the Igbos in Nigeria, every other part of Nigeria wants to come together to oppress the Igbos, because they would rather resolve their issue using the Igbo head than resolving it on their own. And that's why we also...
Let me ask you a practical question. So if you walk up to a senator from Sokoto, a senator from Castena or wherever, and say, look, this is not right. You have 6 states here and you have 5 here. Why can't we all agree to balance it? What would they say to you? Is it the same thing they said before, that they are doing you a favor, or what would they say?
Well, if you go to them, the man from Niger State will tell you that he's from Bogo and that he actually wants a state of his own, that he's being oppressed by the other man, you know.
Yeah, but within the geographical, the geopolitical setting, he has 6 states. You know, within his own geographical, geopolitical setting, he has 6. So why isn't that clear?
And that's what I'm telling you. Yes. The history of Nigeria also, and our political development also, it's a factor. It's easier for people who speak Hausa to communicate with each other. If you notice, every one of them is able to speak one language. We are not able to in the South. And so they can understand each other better than us. You follow? And that also gives the reason why it's easier for them to reach a consensus than for us to reach a consensus. You understand?
Yeah.
If I want to reach a consensus with somebody who is from Buguma and all that, and you're telling me that he's actually your brother, that people from Amiibo and all that went down that side, and you know, and all that, and you trace the history from the 1800s, 1700s, they will want to skin you, burn you alive, and say we have nothing to do with you. Of course, we know why. We know that it is still the lingering effects of the Civil War, where it was easier for somebody to say he is not Igbo and therefore would get benefits than any other.
Now, some of the questions I got around this issue, people pointed several instances where they feel that the people in the East are not getting a fair deal in Nigeria. They talk about things like political appointments, things like getting admission into universities. And the question one person asks is this: is there anything that could be going on that would be so unjust and so bad that all the Eastern members of the National Assembly will walk out and say, no, we are not going to be part of this. We're not going to come back until something changes? Or let's say something that is of importance to senators and members of the House from the south, the whole of the southern part of the country. Is there anything that could make them to say, you know what, we're going to walk out, and until something changes, we're not going to let this continue?
Well, we really don't want to force issues to that nature. And let me tell you why we don't. We have 15 members in the Senate, and we are 109 persons. If you remove the Senate president who is sitting on the chair, is 108. And what we need is 2/3 to pass anything. And so if 15 of us leave, you see 85, so they can pass anything. And so when you know that your numbers are such, because everything in democracy is actually a question of numbers. You don't want to push matters to the point where you want to test your result, because like I said, except if we agree with every other group, especially the groups from the South, you may not be certain that when you walk out, they're going to follow you to walk out. And if you walk out and then it passes without you, that further diminishes you and actually makes you far more irrelevant. So in making our case and making sure that we do it to some extent. For example, when it was a matter of the loan, if you recall and you watch the video, that we fought and fought and fought and fought, and we fought to the extent that we had to go into an executive session and said, okay, how do we do it? You understand? And then we said, okay, we'll meet as a Southeast caucus. We go back to the House. We get the House to delay it so that we can have a resolution from this way. So, you know, and it was because at the inception, when the things were being conceived and written and all that, nobody said anything. Don't forget that loans and all that, before it comes to the National Assembly, passes through the Executive Council. And we have Igbos in the Executive Council, and nobody heard them say anything. So, you know, most of the time when things happen, you know, we are blamed, but we have never heard of any fight inside the Executive Council by the Igbos to say, okay, why are you doing this? Because it's against us. So you also know all of us are guilty. Let me just put it that way. The Holy Book says that all have sinned and come short of glory of God. All of us that are the Southeast political leaders, we have actually not served our people properly. And of course, because we haven't heard, and because this now came from the executive, it's already passed there, it comes to us, then we try to do our best to do that. But of course, if you come from a state with their benefits, and I'm saying don't do it because I'm not benefiting, you will say no, because I'm benefiting, let me go ahead. But it's not really because people were not benefiting. I can tell you for sure, and take my word for it, the reason why all these things pass like this and all that is that the people who are in the party called APC are so scared of saying anything or doing anything that they say it will be against their president. I'm telling you, that's what we find.
Now let me ask you, it's connected to what you're saying. What's the relationship between people who are in the National Assembly from the Southeast with people who are in the executive from the Southeast? Do you guys meet and talk? Is there any kind of coordination?
Unfortunately, few and far between us. It's one of my biggest regrets that we don't come together to meet and to agree on things. And the reason is simple too. Most of the members from the Southeast are from a different political party. Most of the members in the executive are from a different political party. And so they see us not as, you know, brothers and sisters. And so you call them for a meeting, sometimes they don't come, sometimes they find one reason or the other because they're also scared. There's a culture of fear inside this party called APC. We're not discussing APC, but I can tell you there's a culture of fear. Oh no, you don't want to be seen as going against the party and their whatever their
I got that.
supreme leader said. You know, I'm using that in inverted comma.
Good, I got that.
The question of supreme leader and matters of that. You know.
Now, thinking along that line, this lack of coordination and the culture of fear. When you see someone like former Governor Joseph Hallow, when he came out from prison, we saw pictures of the executive and members of the Senate going to see him. I don't know if you went to see him, but what do you think about that? Because to people who are watching from outside, they see someone who went to prison accused of stealing money from the state and then freed on technicalities, because it's not like the court was able to say he wasn't guilty, you know. And then people going to celebrate. Even in the House, they said it's a badge of honor to go to prison, for any politician to go to prison. What do you think about that? How does that make you feel? Especially as someone who is a politician, because sometimes, you know, we say in Igbo, or others, you know, people tend to put everybody in that they're the same people, the same thing.
Well, that's Nigerian political culture. You understand? We went as a leadership is a member of the leadership, is chief whip, and of course, the Nigerian political culture is that you go and then felicitate with the person. The morality part of it, you usually lay down, because what everybody feels is that, well, on the question of you being charged with all that, you got to carry your own burden. But, well, if it's a member of your leadership group, then of course you have to go.
Okay, so someone like
if you now ostracize the person, then the assumption is that you have found him guilty yourself.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
now, someone like Rochas Okorocha, we now had from the EFCC, we got money from him and we're giving it back to Imo State. Is it okay for the Senate to still consider him an honorable member of the Senate and accept him as one of their own? And what does that say to the Nigerian people, that it's okay for a former governor to steal money from the states and then give some back to the EFCC and continue to live his life as a senator?
I think it comes back to the same thing that I said earlier, that it comes to each and every one of us making a value judgment, not the court making a judgment. You understand? And so you may have your own private feelings, but globally, if he's in the Senate and he's a senator, and the assumption is that people voted him in to bring him in there. I remember in the States, in the United States, I read about some guy from Louisiana, who
Jefferson.
In those days, I don't think it's now. Before that was, found to be a crook and all that, and people just will always return him to the Senate, because he was their own guy, So that's how it is. I would want this not to be the standard by which we are judged. But for us, our own is simple. If
Okay, the line is frozen. If you can hear me, we'll wait for it to
come to the Senate. It is the people from that. I can hear you.
Okay.
What I'm saying, it comes back to the fact that once somebody has won an election and come to the Senate, you have to accept him. These people brought him there, warts and all.
Okay, that's good. So let's get to the Senate itself. People are saying that it's very expensive to run the National Assembly. And that is very expensive to run the National Assembly the way it's structured now. Some are saying that it should be scrapped and or that you guys should be part-timers. What is your take on that? And why do we need 37 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly complex?
I know where you're going. I think the Senate spokesman had dealt, so was spokesman of the Senate. I had to deal with this issue. And the question or the whatever happens, whatever somebody is saying now, is also the same. Just a minute, please.
Okay.
Laura, can you tell them to have some little patience? There are some people waiting for me. So
okay, no, I'll round up. I'll round up, I know.
So this is how I dealt with it then. The budget of the National Assembly has never been above 3% of the national budget. 3%. Never. When Emir Sanusi was a
central bank governor,
the budget, the central bank governor, he used the National Assembly as a backdrop to do all the things he was doing, and made a very spurious claim that the National Assembly was taking 25% of the national budget. And when we challenged him, he said, oh, that he got it from the National Bureau of Statistics. And we said, okay, where? And he went ahead and just started talking nonsense. At that time, the budget of the central bank, which he was implementing, was 320 billion. And the budget of the National Assembly was 128 billion. So you could see that personally, he had far more money than the total National Assembly together. Now, this 128 billion and about, which is our own budget, is for an arm of government. An arm of government. The other arm of government was 112 billion. We're almost at par. That is the judiciary. Then you have the executive with the humongous money of trillions. And at every point that somebody wants to make a statement, they go back and say, oh, National Assembly, as if you remove the National Assembly means anything. And I'm telling you that the budget that the central bank governor coordinates is bigger than the budget for the whole National. And National Assembly is the House of Rep, Senate, which other one now? There are just too many things, and of course, the National Assembly Service Commission. So the fact is, cost of governance is high. We agree. What are the components of that cost of governance? That is what you're going to look at. Does a governor need 20 vehicles to move on the streets? Does the president need 50 vehicles long convoy? Does a director in does a minister need a convoy? Vehicle plus this plus outrider plus A, B, and C. Do we really need all this? Does a governor need 100 aides? Does the president need 1,000 aides? So these are the things that actually make up the cost of governance. And if you want to cut waste, it's so easy. You stop the hedonistic lifestyle, and it's been done. Peter Obi did it. And if you hear from him and read the story, then you will know what goes on. Where I live here. I live alone. I don't get the government to pay for my anything. I don't have troops outside waiting and trying to take care of me. I don't have all that. So it is.
Okay. You're frozen. Just so I know we've taken a lot of your time, and if the internet had cooperated, we would have been done by now. But
personal choice.
Okay.
With public. Well, yeah, the internet had worked. You know, okay. We were finished. So what I'm saying is that in the 60s, we also had some. We did the parliamentary system. We also had part-time people and all that. And what did it result to? It also resulted in a coup, and people also accused people of 10%ers and all that. So I think it's the mindset of our people that will determine how you will live as a government. That's what I think.
Okay, let me round up quickly. Some just to touch on some things that most people they won't forgive me for not presenting to you. All right. So when you see something like loans that the government is getting, and you touched on it in that it started from the executive before getting to the Senate and the House, and probably by the time it gets there, you don't have the numbers, you don't have the votes to be able to stop that. But today, during the speech that the president gave on Democracy Day, he thanked the National Assembly for being very good to him in a democracy. And people look at the Senate, for instance, and say that the Senate is a rubber stamp of the executive. Even when we have situations where the one party is in charge in the Senate and the House of Rep, the question is, how do you feel? I know you're in the opposition party, and I know that most of the time probably you vote against some of these things. But how do you feel? Do you feel that you are accomplishing anything? Do you feel like you are accomplishing anything in the Senate, or do you feel frustrated?
Well, let me put
Okay, you're frozen. So when you come back, you want to say, let me put it this way.
Well, sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes we feel frustrated. Sometimes. Well, I can hear you very well now.
Okay.
Okay, in 30 minutes time. Can we?
Yeah, we'll be done. We'll be done. Yeah, we'll be done.
You know what I'm saying is that sometimes we are frustrated. Of course, we can be, but you can be frustrated. But you know, it's a democracy. Anything that passes in the House is passed. There's nothing else you can do about that. And we can justify anything, but I can tell you that we do our own job and other people do theirs. That's just the thing. Yeah, sometimes I feel personally frustrated, but I mean, the reason of being a democracy, and that's what a lot of people don't get, is that you can have your say, but you know, when the voting is done and people have their way, then you have to live with the consequences of what has done and also accept it as part of your own decision. The real problem has always been that we don't want to take, responsibility for what we agree on. That is just it.
Now, people.
Yeah, I have my guess here, and I have to really.
Okay, I know. One more question. One more question, and we go. People want to know. You are outspoken, and your courage, and it's obvious. They want to know. Why is it that other senators don't have it? I know you explained that your role as the minority leader is one, but I don't think that any senator cannot come out and have a press conference and say, I don't support this, you know, to be visible and to show that they're passionate about something. I want to ask you, why is that? And then have you paid any price for the positions you are taking?
Well, let me put it this way. I can't answer for other people. Other people, it's only when you see them that you can answer. So why is it that you're not getting up and talking about us? So I have my style. Other people have their own style. Some people may just be a little more accommodating. I may not be. You understand? And of course, you pay a price every day for not being a conformist. Once you're not a conformist, you pay a price for it. And it's whether you have the you know what I mean, to pay the price.
Yeah. Some people don't have it. Some people don't have it. Okay, one last one, and then we are gone.
This is the last one now.
They will kill me. This one, they will kill me if I don't ask you. So, are we looking at Governor Abaribe in the future?
You're looking at 3 years ahead with the coronavirus and everything here, and you want me to make a prediction?
No. It's one of the questions.
It's not time to make a prediction. When the time comes, you will get to know.
You get that. Or are we looking at
just 1 year? 1 year inside the Senate. Well, let's finish our work first here before we start looking at tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Senator Abaribe. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That has been Senator Abaribe representing Abia South. Senator Abaribe representing Abia South, and he's also the minority leader in the Senate. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.